Welcome back to Derailed. I am your host, JJ Lahey, here with Jake Schyvinck, the one and only draft robot. We're going to be talking Packers. We're going to be talking college football playoffs. We're going to be talking
that's right.
Drama. A lot of drama. We don't have to talk college football playoffs. Jake, you just expressed some interest in talking about the new rumored playoff format. I guess for me to say in the month of May, we're talking college football playoffs. It sounds a little anachronistic, but there is rumored restructuring again of the college football playoff format. I have only one thing to say to that. The Buckeyes won the first ever 4-team college football playoff and the first ever 12-team college football playoff. And they didn't win any in between those. So if changing the number of teams in the college football playoffs is what's required to get the Buckeyes a natty, I'm all for it. Let's do it every year. You can just change the number every single year. Do it with 17, 15. Every year we'll change it. That's I liked the 12-team format. I didn't feel like it was too small at all. There was not one team that was not included that should have been included. So I don't know. Didn't have a problem with it. 12 has to me always felt right. There was a while where I was really kind of on board with the idea of like 8 or 10. 8 or 10 I liked.
10 would have been interesting.
I think the thing with 12 is that you're going to get some undeserving teams in there every single year, but you're never going to have a team that's left out that you think should have been in. And that's been the problem, I think, more often than not, back during the BCS and during the 14 playoff, was there were a lot of years when you're like, I don't know, man, I kind of think the number 5 or number 6 team in the country should have been in.
Got a chance, at least. Yeah.
And I just don't think with the 12-team format, I don't think you're ever going to be in a situation where you're like, oh, man, if it wasn't for that one wonky loss, then, team number 13.
I mean, there probably is still going to be that, right? I mean, Mississippi tried to kind of be like that a little bit. And yes, if they didn't lose to Kentucky, would they have gotten in? Yeah, probably. But don't lose to Kentucky. Pretty simple. Simple. Illinois, don't lose to Minnesota. Yeah. Sorry, that's how that is. Now, I hope, Illinois got a lot of expectations this year. I know what that usually turns into. In terms of how it's going to go down. But I've seen some way too early top 25s, JJ, that are blowing my mind a little bit. Some of them have left Illinois off completely, which is, I think, a choice.
No.
I've seen some
but
that
those
have
to
be
completely. SEC honks. Those are Southern honks.
And they certainly had Indiana pretty low. They had Illinois in the honorable mention category, and Auburn was in there. So I think that should tell you all you need to know about who is making these top 25s.
Yeah, where's Vanderbilt? They got Vanderbilt.
Can I ask you really quick? I know we're going to go into the Packers, and I know the people are going to want us to do that, and the people don't want us talking about this. However,
we'll have to get to Packers at some point, only because our audience is going to demand it.
Can you put your top 3 together real quick?
It sounds so stupid. I mean, obviously Penn State.
Yeah, they're probably going to be
Texas. I feel like maybe there's a really obvious one for number 3 that I'm not thinking of.
I don't think there is, but this person put a certain team at 2 that I was pretty surprised by. But we'll get
so they had Texas and Penn State in the top 3.
Texas at 3 and Penn State at 1. Yeah.
Okay, so what do they have? Like A&M or something?
No, I don't think it was that egregious, but I don't get it.
I did see a top 3 college football head coaches. No, it was like the top 5. All right, and they had Kirby 1, they had Marcus Freeman 2, which I didn't like.
It's okay.
It didn't make me mad, but I thought it was pretty funny. So they had Jimbo Fisher and Steve Sarkisian 3 and 4.
What?
And then they had Ryan Day at 5, and my only thing was like, listen, Ryan Day has beaten Marcus Freeman 3-0. Why is he ranked behind Marcus Freeman? I'm not gonna say anything about the rest of the list. I just want an answer to that specific question.
You're not going to say anything about the rest of it? I have something to say about the rest
because the rest of
it
it speaks for itself. I just think that the 3-0 record is the thing that I can contribute to the conversation. So I think for my number 3, I might go. I'm a little tempted to go Oregon, but I just don't know that they have quarterbacks.
Well, you don't have to pick them.
Notre Dame is an option for number 3.
I think so as well. But this
did not. Georgia doesn't have a quarterback.
They don't. No.
So Bama doesn't have a team right now, as far as we know. So I don't know. Number 3 for me. So who was it?
It was Bama at 2.
No.
It
what?
Was. Yeah, it was.
If Saban was still there,
that.
I would say.
Yeah, I don't. I would like he'll figure it out, but it's like I don't think so. This isn't. We're not in the same. This isn't the same era, folks.
I like Tool for this is top 3. UConn, Wake Forest, and New Mexico State. The only problem I have is that he doesn't have Vandy in there. We need to rep the SEC. So where's Vandy? Come on.
Oh man, really quick Tool for this. It starts the 23rd of August. There are a few games on that Saturday, but the following week we'll have everything. Now, Kansas State and Iowa State are playing Farmageddon in Dublin this year on that opening weekend, which is pretty sick. That'll be fun. But yeah, there's the mega matchups are the weekend after Labor Day weekend, and I believe there's a massive one in Columbus that weekend, the 30th, with Ohio State hosting the Longhorns, which should be outstanding. A perfect way to kick things off.
It'll be a fun game.
I think it's going to be at noon, which is so dumb. Yeah. It's so dumb. Don't put that at noon. So stupid. Help them. The big noon stuff's got to stop, by the way. If you're just featuring a Big 10 game or a Big 12 game, cool. Don't put the best game at noon. Don't do that.
Last year, like every single one of Ohio State's big games was at noon. Every one of them.
Yeah.
And
that's so annoying.
It was frustrating to the majority of the Ohio State fan base and to a lot of the players and the coaches because they wanted night games because they could have recruits come to the night games. And a lot of the time it's just too hard for a recruit to make it to a noon kickoff. And so, that was a source of great frustration, I know, for a lot of those fans last year. So,
well, they put oh my gosh, we're driving down the rabbit hole. We should really pivot to the Packers.
You know what? I have a pivot here. I want to address the first comment we had in the chat here. Okay, Tool for this says, what did Jake say to JJ to make him that mad? So, Jake, what did I say to make you that mad? What did you say to make me that mad? Yeah.
It's this. That Matt Orzech actually does not have any leverage on the Packers and that he's just good.
And now I'm going to make the face. You idiot. He's clearly terrible, and he has pictures of Ed Policy, Brian Gutekunst. I got to say, the AI, I thought, did a bang-up job on the thumbnails. The last 3 weeks, been using a new tool that lets me feed in photos of the two of us. And so I think it's been really nailing some of your facial expressions the last couple of weeks. I've been enjoying it.
I think so.
Let's see here. Tool for this is not doing his normal job of derailing us. He's trying to get us on topic, trying to get us to talk about the topic I actually put into the title of this episode, where I said that we were going to talk about Sean Rhyan. We're going to talk about the offensive line, the drama with the offensive line and the wide receiver room. He says, maybe Sean Rhyan would have made $2 million if he played long snapper instead of guard. So obviously the story, this is something that we knew at the end of the season because, people like us who have absolutely no lives were probably because of Ken Ingalls paying attention to Sean Rhyan's snap counts and the fact that he was really close to getting a guaranteed escalator for playing time that the NFL and the Players Union had agreed upon for a third-round pick. And he came in just 2 snaps away, not 2 snaps on the season, but 2 snaps so far in his NFL career of getting $2 million extra dollars. So if he had played 2 snaps, in just garbage time in his freshman year, he would have made $2 million extra dollars this year. To which I say, like, sure, kind of stinks that he missed out on $2 million, especially given the fact that he is almost completely certainly losing his job this year. Green Bay has clearly desperately been trying to find an answer at right guard since Sean Rhyan has not given them any kind of confidence that he can be that. And I would just say,
just quite the shame.
Probably should have played better. There has been no good competition with him for right guard. That job has been open for the taking.
It has
since. Really, like, in 2019, Goody brought in Billy Turner to come play right guard. And I didn't think he played particularly well at right guard. It's been like the one spot on our offensive line that we just have not had an answer for in the entire Matt LaFleur era. We just have not had a right guard. And so, certainly post Billy Turner and post Lucas Patrick, there just is not, there's been no established starter there. And Sean Rhyan, he played right tackle at UCLA, was clearly supposed to be the guy at right guard. And at times, we've seen the flashes. Like the ability is not in question. It's the consistency. And I think that's what has made it so frustrating this whole time,
Yeah, no, it's true. And Sean Rhyan was actually somebody it was one of my favorite selections of that draft class. I think I got really excited about that one of like, oh, wow, yeah, okay, this is the kind of offensive line investment I was hoping they would, do at some point in this draft. And not that I wasn't excited about Wyatt, because I feel like Wyatt brought something that was desperately needed as well. But Rhyan was kind of like, okay, we're serious about this. And then obviously, it went Tom and Igbare and Walker. I think they really, and Doubs, and they really crushed day 3, which I think is something that has, proven to be true. But yeah, it feels like he could have just, it seemed like a perfect transition of like, you're a bigger guy, you've played right tackle a lot, like just kick inside and kick inside, kick butt, very, very simply do that. And I thought it would work really well. Now he has, I think, leveled off a little bit more than kind of that rookie year where he got a little bit of a couple looks and it was like, oh, this is not good at all. So we've seen a little bit of that, but obviously it's time now, right? Like it was kind of time last year. Year 3 is usually where you want to see it, but he has a chance to potentially win it still if he pulls a rabbit out of a hat or something, in training camp and proves it. But yeah, it just seems like, especially with this shift that they've currently, they're currently going through of like, we want like to get more vertical with this run game. He should be an asset in that area, with how big he is and how physical he can play, and just haven't gotten there to this point. So,
we got a question on the topic. Oh shoot, I just lost it. Where was it? The offensive guard rotation. Where'd that go? Here it is, from Drew. Will we still do a rotation at right guard? I personally doubt it. I obviously the plan, plan A is never to rotate per se, but I also think that until we have an established starter, it's hard to argue with giving other guys looks, and
for sure.
Okay. I think it was like, I don't know, 8 months ago that you and I were talking about an upcoming Ohio State game, and you were saying, I forget who we were playing, Indiana or somebody, and you were like, oh, I'm definitely betting the Buckeyes to win this one. And I said, yeah, well, they're talking about rotating right guards for the whole game.
That's right, yeah.
And your jaw dropped. And then we proceeded to watch the Packers do the same thing down the stretch last year.
Certainly did.
And I got to be honest, like for both teams, it could have been worse. The Buckeyes and Packers both, I think, got better overall production out of right guard by rotating that spot than they were previously getting, having just one guy locking it down. It always cracks me up how often the Buckeyes and Packers happen to be doing the exact same thing. Frequently, they have like the exact same deficiencies on their roster too. It's always
Yeah, Miami did that last year as well. Jalen Rivers, who is somebody I think talked about a little bit at the very least on this show of like, he between even within games, but like every other game, it was guard, tackle, like back and forth.
Which is like a little weirder to me than rotating
stuff.
The guy you have at guard.
Just the crazy things that teams will do with their offensive lines never ceases to amaze, because offensive line play just isn't, as good as we'd hope it would be. And then that spans, I think every level, really. Like, I just feel like I don't think the technique is there for a lot of these guys until kind of even the NFL. Like the special ones have the technique before, but like so many, even guys that are first round picks are just not coming in with, the requisite, technique to be successful early. So,
interesting question here from Drew. Is Sean Rhyan a hit of a pick? I argue he is, says Drew. We got a lot of decent protection, and now it's time for him to move on, but it's a fine third rounder. It is an interesting question because
what do you expect from third rounders?
And I think you have to grade it on kind of multiple different curves. Number one, just third round in general. Number two, Packers third round picks. As far as Packers third round picks go, he's the second best one we've had in the Gutekunst era, behind only Tucker Kraft. So, there's that. Who do we
behind the GOAT, which again, everybody's behind the GOAT. So
right. Oh, hey, we got Joseph W. What up, homies? Stop by for a second. We'll listen to a replay a little later. Thank you for the stream. Appreciate you, Joseph. Wish you could hang out live, but you go have fun doing whatever you're doing. Chris is in the chat. By the way, spoiler, Chris has agreed to come back on the show in a couple weeks here. Jake is going to be on hiatus. Can't say where he's going because, the stalkers will follow him. But Chris has graciously
fire the imagination a little bit. Where is he? Who
fill
knows?
in. It'll be fun to have.
Where
him.
is he?
He says, I wanted... Hold on a second. My door just opened. I'll be right back.
All right. I will continue with this one. Chris saying I wanted big man Daniel Faalele from Minnesota over Sean Rhyan. Equal disappointment despite having higher consensus. Yeah, I know Baltimore was the team who tried. Could they get something out of him at guard, being a formal right tackle who was big. Like he was 6'7", 6'8", 362, something like that, I think is where Faalele was. He might have even been bigger than 360, honestly. Might have been closer to 380. So, but yeah, he was interesting in the draft. I remember there was a lot of talk about the size. Yeah, 6'8" and an eighth, 384 is what I just found for Faalele. That's nuts. 35 and an eighth inch arm length. That's crazy.
Thankfully, I'm not getting swatted. I did have to tell the crazy neighbor to come back every time. Okay. Drew says I would have felt better if we were moving Jenkins to right guard and had a center. I don't even know. That broke my brain. Why would that make you feel better? Just because we never have a right guard? I just don't think
that's
Jenkins...
probably why.
Like,
just because we
right
have a right guard, I think is...
Yeah.
I mean, I'd feel even better if Aaron Banks could play right guard, and we knew that. Like, if we knew like he was... Gosh, then it would be like, okay, well...
Again, we have a plethora of left guards on this roster. We never have any right guards.
I know. It will be a travesty if it is if Belton is indeed going to play tackle. Like they're not even considering him a guard, which I think is kind of wild, all things considered. But like if they don't at all, I don't know what we're doing. I have no clue. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be Rhyan for another year, I guess.
How did they introduce Belton? As a offensive lineman?
I don't know.
I'm looking for the image.
Really quick, Falele, the grades have been were not great.
The
first
website,
2 years.
they have
got to
listed
league
as a tackle.
average in year 3. They have listed as tackle.
The website says tackle. Packers.com.
Boy, let me tell you.
Their social media says tackle. So,
which did they announce Sean Rhyan as a tackle?
Wasn't it John? Yeah, they did. John Williams, wasn't he the one that they announced
they
as,
list him as a guard?
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, which I found really interesting. Yeah, I mean, and I know we did this just last week.
I know. But really quick, sorry to interrupt. Schneidman tweeted this after the class, and he has Williams listed as a guard when he kind of listed the picks out. It does say Belton as O-line. Now, I don't know if he was announced as that.
The graphic that the Packers posted on Facebook and on Twitter says tackle.
Okay.
But I have to imagine that the graphic would say whatever Goodell was told to read.
Yeah. Which, I mean, again, Green Bay has kicked a lot of guys announced as tackles inside.
Yeah.
So if he's announced
what's
as
interesting
a tackle,
is when they announce a guy as a guard.
Yeah, that's
strange. What's interesting.
That was strange.
And they did that with Elgton Jenkins.
Did they? They announced him as guard?
They did, yes.
They didn't announce him as O-line. Okay.
Nope, they announced him as guard. So I did pull up our, last week, you and I put together like our sort of depth chart-ish for right guard.
Yeah.
Which we could revisit this again because it is just really interesting. And the question is, like, given if you could have your druthers, if you could just, pick and choose and do whatever, what is your preferred order at right guard? And I think Belton, Rhyan, Morgan is kind of where we're at, is it not? In that order?
Personally, yes, just based on what, I think what Green Bay is wanting to do as far as their philosophy. Like, to me, that's what that tells me is, oh yeah, we're getting vertical in the run game. We want these bigger guys up front. So why would it not be Belton, then Rhyan, then Morgan? Because Morgan, I feel like, is not the bruising, get after the vertical stuff. So he felt like more of the fit when it was a lot more zone run, which, again, inside zone, I think is going to still be a major part of what Green Bay is doing. So he can still function in that regard. But to me, it was like, okay, this shift would tell me that it makes sense why they were talking about Morgan earlier in the offseason at left tackle, because he's got more of the, protection squad, fluid mover type of profile for tackle, like Tom especially, where it was like, okay, yeah, let the fluid athletes do their damage out there in pass protection against the better athletes, right? The more explosive, the quicker, right? All of these guys on the edge. And you have these bigger dudes on the interior just smoking 1 techs and 3 techs and then just decleating linebackers at the second level. That seemed to make more sense. But maybe not. Maybe they're going to throw the curveball and Belton's going to be, a backup his rookie season. I don't know. Again, we kind of talked about this where it was like last week, where it was like I could see a lot of different outcomes of how the offensive line looks in 2026. Right. But to me, like, if you're trying to get best 5 out there, picking guy in the second round, which is also what we said last week, like picking guy in the second round, it feels like he's going to start. And right now,
well, not just a second rounder, a very old second rounder. You're picking a 24-year-old guy with a bajillion starts under his belt.
Yeah.
extremely experienced. Like at 24,
you would think
pretty much expecting him to kind of already be at his peak. You know, when you draft a young offensive lineman and you say, hey, developmental, that hits so much differently than 24-year-old.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, Wyatt got a decent amount of snaps even as, you know, a rookie when he was 24, right? It wasn't a ton, but he still was on the field enough by end of season where we're like, yeah, we got to get this guy in the field. First round pick, he's an older guy. Like we're not going to sit and do the red shirt thing. So, and especially at a position that I feel like is lacking one quality starter. Can they find it? Like, it makes sense. And maybe John Williams is the guy. Who knows? They announced him as a guard. We'll see, how that materializes in camp. But yeah, we are in a very kind of just strange situation with these guys. And our preferenced order of like looking at it is very interesting just because of
that's
philosophies and how we believe in the talent and all of that, how that meshes into what our preference is just really interesting, I think, to look at. And like how high Belton is on a lot of these lists very quickly as well. Like we see him as the backup right tackle right now.
We do. Like
very clearly. Like who else you want to trot out there? I'm not trotting anybody else out there.
Yeah, at right tackle, I mean, and I've made my feelings very plain that there's other places I would rather have Zach Tom because I think he can be even better at right tackle. But the problem is, so far we don't have somebody else who can play right tackle. We just straight up don't have one. I mean, like if we were playing a game tomorrow, and Zach Tom is unavailable, who's going to play right tackle? I'm pretty much assuming that the candidates to start in that game are Kadeem Telfort, Elgton Jenkins, and Sean Rhyan. That those are the three guys in any kind of contention to start at right tackle if Zach Tom is unavailable tomorrow. With no time to prepare.
Yeah.
We should
because again, as we've talked about, right, the whole flipping at left tackle to right tackle, it's not a guarantee. There's no like,
right,
yep, this is a guarantee he can flip over there. Because they were talking about it with Joe Alt when he was drafted last year. Played left tackle at Notre Dame. Are they going to be able, who are they going to have to kick to the right side? Are they going to have to kick Slater over there, who really has never done that either? Or are they just going to play Alt there? And Alt, seamless transition, no problem, he's right tackle. Not everybody can do that. Bakhtiari has talked about that. Like, he could never do it. So it's a case-by-case basis with a lot of these guys, and sometimes we don't know because we haven't sent these guys through drills. We haven't been in the meetings, right? We're not being able to ask these guys questions necessarily like, hey, how do you feel about kicking to the other side? Like, does that, another great question that I think would be brought up in a lot of combine interviews for some of these guys, right? That seems like something that would be good. But yeah, that It gets really interesting, especially as I know Drew has a question there about like, okay, if this person goes down, what are we doing? Like, if this person goes down, what are we doing? Because I think that's really good, like to go through. Because kind of JJ, we were saying like,
can you pin his question? By the way,
yeah.
The chat,
got it.
The chat is frozen for me, so I can't see anything.
I've got it. Yes. Drew, we talked about.
And by the way, if there's any
better, we talked about that.
If we've had any interesting comments recently, do pin them so I can see them too.
Yeah, I will definitely.
Hopefully my feed unfreezes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, if Tom got hurt, would you rather play Belton at right tackle or move Walker to right tackle and put Morgan at left tackle? I mean, do we want? There's a whole other question or about option in there.
Jordan Morgan, right? Yeah.
Leave Walker at left tackle and put Morgan at right tackle.
Well, again, that brings up the interesting. Yeah, if Tom gets hurt, what are we doing here? Because should we play the hypothetical of Belton playing right guard and he is the starter right now? Should we say that for any of these hypotheticals at this point? Just like he's going to start, we got to find a spot for him to start in the best five.
Belton or Morgan?
Belton of like, okay, you've picked him high. You He's 24. We kind of talked about like he
I don't
should
think he
be in a
has
starting
to
role.
start. I don't think he has
No.
to start, but obviously.
But for this exercise, should we just say he's the starting right guard? Just to see then how things shift from there? Because if you're putting him at one of the tackle spots when Tom goes down, then obviously right guard is someone's filling that.
I would say
Or
that right
however you
guard is a
move it
little bit
around.
different than the other 4 offensive line spots in that there is not an entrenched starter. All right. Zach Tom, clearly the starter at right tackle. We know Elgton Jenkins is currently the starter at center. We know that Aaron Banks is currently the starter at left guard. And Rasheed Walker is the incumbent. He's the starter at left tackle. And, if Jordan Morgan or Anthony Belton or somebody wants to play left tackle, they're going to have to pass Rasheed Walker on the depth chart.
Yes.
And at right
For
guard, sure. I don't know that the coaching staff is giving that level of respect to anybody because they didn't have a starter at right guard last year. They had a rotation between the 2 buffoons who, couldn't manage to put together an entire game of consistent play. So I would say, like right now, like I would say that that there is not a starter at right guard. It's blank, and you got, probably. I would say they probably are going to let all 4 of these guys compete for right guard. I don't know who else might be in the mix there. We didn't really feel like there was anybody. Not to say that Kadeem Telford or John Williams or somebody couldn't be, getting some looks there occasionally, but we didn't feel that it was a natural fit for any of them. And that these 4 guys probably would be the front runners for that kind of competition. Belton, Rhyan, Morgan, and Dontayvion Jennings. And do you agree with me that Jordan Morgan is a better fit on the right side of the line than the left, or no? I mean, you've made your feelings clear that he's a better fit on a different offensive line that is running a different scheme altogether.
That's true. I mean, because I don't think he's ever played right tackle, right? Yeah, he's never played right tackle. I would prefer he probably just be the backup at left tackle.
Well, but he has been playing at right guard. He's been on the right side of the line. So,
but again,
if you're
right side of the line, it's been in a more constricted area, right? When he's playing right guard, right? There's been a little bit more constricted area. How does he feel about the more vertical, the vertical sets and the 45-degree stuff that he would have to do in the jump sets at right tackle, right? Versus kind of just upright and square and being ready and staying on your feet at right guard where you have less space to worry about. Is he comfortable, moving on the right side, with more range? I think is the question you have to ask with Morgan.
Well, what do you think would be a bigger, if he's been at right guard for about the past year, what do you think is the bigger stretch for him to move from right guard to right tackle or left tackle?
What I think is the bigger stretch for him?
Yeah.
I mean,
because obviously going back to left tackle is going back to something he's done before.
Yeah, I would still lean towards that. Because he has still played left guard too. He did play left guard last year, so he has done that. I would trust the 2,300 some snaps before the league where he was comfortable over there, over the right side. I'm not going to dismiss it altogether though. I think it's just a slight advantage because of all the history over there. But as you said, he did play He played 120 snaps at right guard last year. So he's getting the feel of things over there. Yeah,
and practice on the right side
for sure. Yeah. What did he do in the preseason? Anything? No. That's right. He was hurt. That's right. We talked about that. Way back when.
The disappointment in your voice.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reps in practice and all of that, totally fine. I would still lean that, but again, I think you're bringing up the good point of he's gotten reps on the right side, with how good the movement skills are that I think we both agree on at the very least. Regarding Morgan of the baseline movement skills are pretty good. Could he hang out there? I would think so. I would just probably be more comfortable with him at a position that he's, taken thousands of reps at. But again, I won't dismiss it altogether.
We should touch on the Elgton Jenkins contract thing really quick because this is news for this week.
True.
And then I would like to talk a little bit about just like our preference for
For
battles
scenarios or
position.
just okay.
But as far as at the Elgton Jenkins thing, so there's a new story. Drew says, I remember the coach said they think Belton can play 4 of the 5 positions. So basically everything but center, right? Yeah.
I would assume that's, yeah.
I mean, your tackle body type is not going to be much of a success at center. Elgton Jenkins and Zach Tom have succeeded at tackle despite their size, and they are much closer to center size than they are to tackle size, I would say. Whereas Anthony Belton is a big boy.
I guess, was Elgton Jenkins 310 or was he slightly lower than that? Is he listed lower than that?
I don't know. My kind of
exactly 310. Okay, at least at the combine coming into the draft, maybe he added 5ish somewhere in there. He's at close to 315. I don't know what the site says exactly, but yeah, because Tom's like what 304, I think coming out. So yeah, a little bit lighter. That's just to me like not a guard weight at all. Which is why, I think for Tom, to me at least, both tackle spots and center feel like the spot for him. And he's been able to do, obviously excellent work at right tackle for a long time. But yeah, Jenkins at 310, I think is still, that's still, I think, to me, comfortable enough tackle weight where, he has the mass to handle, a lot of what goes on out there. So, yeah. Yeah.
So Jenkins wants a contract adjustment, and I immediately saw people lumping that news report in with, the Jayden Reed stuff and the Keyshawn Nixon stuff, and just talking about like general like Packers players unhappiness, blah blah blah. And I just wanted to toss a little bit of credibility Elton's way. Like there is some major context here that we should keep in mind. In 2022, he signed a nice big contract with the Packers. I think it was $68 million for 4 years, something like that. And there were a lot of incentives in there related to playing time at tackle. And, they were in a situation. He had been hurt, with the ACL tear, and he's coming off that ACL tear. He'd been playing, left tackle at a Pro Bowl level, prior to his injury, and how is he going to handle returning from injury? And they ended up deciding that they really needed to put him inside just due to the fact that he was still recovering. And so, they give him this hybrid contract where, hey, we're paying you like a guard, and if you're playing at tackle, there are these performance escalators, blah, 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 that are going to kick in. You're going to get extra money.
Yeah.
Nothing about playing center. So, first of all, his guaranteed money is all gone, which is going to be very important for a guy who's being asked to do a very important job. And then also just the fact that, hey, sure, I'm willing to make this move because you guys think it's what's best for the team. It's certainly not what's best for my pocketbook, and I would like to play tackle, and I'd like to get paid as a tackle. And so I signed this contract with you that would allow me the opportunity to do that. And by pushing me inside to center, you are taking away that option from me. I can't move from center to tackle. You guys need me full time as a center, and you don't have any kind of escalators in my contract for me playing center. I think it's completely fair. Like, listen, if your job description is changing, I think it's totally fair to ask for, hey, can we make sure that my contract that I have to play on matches what you're asking me to do? I think that's more than fair. And then also just the fact that he wants, I'm sure he wants some more guaranteed money on there. I think he's 30 years old right now, and the Packers typically don't like paying guys who hit that year 30 mark.
Looks like he'll turn 30 the 26th of December this year.
Okay, so he's probably I would
So.
say his agent is going to be in a pretty big hurry to get a new deal in place, maybe tack on like 2 extra years before the regular season begins this year. And I think that's more than fair. And I think the Packers will come to terms on a deal that that Elton's camp thinks is fair. Pretty good chance. So there's going to be some negative storylines about like, oh man, we're spending so much money on Elgton Jenkins when that comes out. And you just always have to keep in mind like where the salary cap is. All right. What felt like a lot of money 2 years ago is not the same amount of money today. So, and believe me, like even for me, it's often hard to wrap my mind around, but you look at like what the heck they paid Aaron Banks, who has never done anything in his career. And like Elgton Jenkins has to be making a lot more than Aaron Banks. So anyways, I just wanted to throw a little bit of credibility Elton's way. And then and Tool
also, I just like, again, I know that like we have been certainly conditioned at the very least to be like very anti-player. You don't have to, again, you don't have to be pro player. I'm not saying you must, I'm not making you conform, but we have certainly, in, I think the media and how things have been kind of directed, like we have very much been fed like the pro organization, anti-player stance for so long. And like, especially in the college side of things where they were doing it for free, unless, you were getting the SEC under the table stuff, right? For the most like
bag man.
And like, again, the whole like coaches can leave whenever they want to type of thing. Yeah. And everybody's mad about the portal type of thing. Like we've been very pro coach, pro owner, pro organization. And I think it's 100% fair as what you said, JJ, if this is exactly what it is of like, I can't get these escalators. Can I get escalators a different way? From like time played or Pro Bowl or all pro or something like that in the contract. If it's not already there, if any of those stipulations aren't there, I think it's very, very fair to ask that. And again, I know he signed the contract. Okay, I understand that. I understand he's, you have to play out the contract, but I do think it's extremely fair to ask, again, about these certain escalator type of things where, as you said, the conditions have changed. He is playing a different position now than when he signed there. Not to mention, again, it's a small sample size. It's not the biggest. It's not super small. I guess it's 500 snaps-ish. Where, like, if you look at the PFF grades, which aren't everything, but if you look at them, his best blocking grade season overall was when he played left tackle in 2021. Those near 500 snaps.
If he hadn't torn his ACL, he was going to win All-Pro that year.
He probably would still be playing at an All-Pro level right now at left tackle. He would probably be the left tackle, and Green Bay would have spent a lot more on the interior.
Should I do the rant again? Should I do the right tackle rant again?
You certainly could. But, like, he could very well be that right now. And, again, the injury stuff and all that changes, and I get that the organization has to, look into that with the injury stuff of, like, hey, it's something we got to look at contract wise. There's so much into this, right? But I do think like we can afford to be a little bit pro player in that regard. And again, that's not necessarily it's also, case by case, right? The Hendrickson thing, we could probably do a whole 15 minutes on that, where it's like if Hendrickson's ticked because, he hasn't been presented with a new contract yet, okay, that's whatever, like you go show that you're an all-pro again. But if the team is coming to you and saying like, no, we've got this on the table if you do it, if you have an all-pro season, and then he does it and then it's not on the table anymore, that's not, we're not doing that. That's wrong, period. Okay? That is wrong. Be transparent with each other, right? So that's the other part of the Hendrickson situation of like if they're telling him like, hey, if you do this, we've got the contract ready, and then they don't have it, and then they've been radio silent and all that. That's the problem, right? We're getting into, Hendrickson said, ownership said, and the same thing could go with Jenkins. Probably will at some point, right, during the summer because we have nothing better to do. than to talk about these things because there's no camp or anything going on. But I do think just before you comment, before you get on social media, before you lose your mind, just step back. Think about what is being asked. Read everything, right? Don't read the headlines. Just listen and read to everything that you can to get the full kind of the full perspective on the situation, right? So, and again, this is the thing. If you tick him off, he's the only center you have. Because again, you can put Zach Tom there, but to me, then you're sacrificing, the wins over replacement at tackle, no matter who tries to go out there and play it, Belton or Morgan or otherwise. So,
and
it doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing. He's not asking for $10 million more per year, right? He's not asking for that. He's not saying, as far as we know, yeah. But like, if it's just a simple, like, okay, yeah, the escalation things, like I can't reach these. Can I? It doesn't really seem unreasonable at all. And if people are truly bad about him asking about that, it might be time. It's summer's coming. Just get outside. Beg you.
I certainly fall much more on the pro team side. I root for the logo on the helmet. And like, the Davante Adams situation was one where I had absolutely zero sympathy for Davante Adams in that, he had hurt feelings because the initial offer that they gave him, wasn't where he wanted it to be. And he didn't like the timeline because they were trying to figure out the Aaron Rodgers contract situation. They didn't know how much they could afford to, give Davante, blah, blah, blah. So his hurt feelings came into the picture. And I didn't care about that at all. I didn't have any sympathy for Davante in there. But like apples and oranges with this Elgton Jenkins situation of, as far as we know, there's absolutely nothing unreasonable from Elton's camp at all. It's his job description changed at a time that is very like uncertain / fragile for him, and just in terms of how his contract is currently set up. I think the fact that they're asking him to make a significant change that is going to benefit the team and not benefit him, he needs to be compensated for it and made whole. And I think that he will. I did want to highlight tool for this. Oops, where'd it go? Here it is. Elgton Jenkins doesn't need more money. He got his money back. So the headlines, the TMZ headlines about Elgton Jenkins being involved in a nightclub dispute or something, were so stupid and like lacking any context at all. It sounded like he got drunk and, did something regrettable or was involved in something. And, literally just he paid a, cover to get in to a club and then, got in and there was nobody there. And so he wanted his money back because he was leaving and they wouldn't give him his money back. And so I think he called the cops because they wouldn't give his money back or something like that. Anyways, point being, it was like a complete nothing burger. And so too old for this hilarious reference. Loved it. Jake, can we talk about so when we put this together, I think there was a healthy dose of like what we expect.
Yeah.
The projected depth chart is
for sure.
But can we just like this second one, can this be just like our druthers? Like, hey, if we were figuring out the O-line, what would our preference be of like who could win every job? And like, I kind of think we should play it a little bit of like, let's just say we had 5 Zach Toms, right? And not say, well, we can't have him as our number one preference at this
We'd certainly
spot
be set
because
for a long time.
he can't be our number one
not
right tackle and left tackle because we only have one of him. But the point being, like, who is the best guy for each of these 5 jobs, and just rank them all. What do you think about that?
Okay, I like it.
So for me, I think it immediately gets interesting. And we had this was kind of inspired by a question earlier. I think it was either Drew.
It was probably this because, again, he asked about, like, if guys are getting hurt, what's your preference if Tom goes down? I think we can kind of put that into this when we kind of go through it and kind of keep one of these two sheets or one of these two tables on the sheet like as is. We can definitely get to that. I think that's the one you're looking for.
I think it probably is. So for me, it gets kind of immediately interesting at center because just, only taking center into consideration and not like where else would you rather these guys play? Who would you prefer just straight up? Elgton Jenkins as center or Zach Tom as center? Just assume that you're sending one guy to the bench and the other guy's playing center.
I actually, just based on what we're running right now, I'm going to say Elgton. If it was like 2 years ago, I'd probably say Tom. But based on what we're running at this point, I think I'm going to lean Elgton, actually.
For center, behind those two guys, for backup center, Jacob Monk versus Sean Rhyan, I think is kind of an interesting one because I think for both of these guys, there is a similar situation of like there were a lot of resources given up to go get this guy, and you'd like him to contribute somewhere. And so I kind of feel equally about who I'd rather be contributing. But who do you think has a higher ceiling as a center, Monk or Rhyan? And you guys in the chat too, like I definitely want your input on this as well. Like center, so if Zach Tom is center too.
They moved up from 168 to 163 and gave up 219 for Monk.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is pretty steep.
Giving up a sixth is decently steep, yes.
To move up 5 spots in the fifth. That's steep.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to make sure the listeners know it's not as steep as what the Lions did on Friday of the draft to go get Isaac Tesla. But yes, yeah. Usually you move up in the fifth. You're giving up like even more peanuts than a sixth. As far as like ceiling goes, I would think Monk has the higher ceiling of like. Athletically, I think there's a lot more there to set the floor, and if like the technique and the mental processing part of the game hits, like I do think that ceiling is higher than Ryan's. To me, I don't think he can play. I think I would rather play Rhyan tomorrow if there's a game, simply because I think the pass protection it would be so much better. Because I just don't think Monk has that great a grasp on it at the moment. At least at the center position, feels like he's obviously again. It's still like working on because again, if you're making a transition to center, not having played it right, Elgton has played it at Mississippi State. We did, he played it last year, I think, for a game, if I'm not mistaken. I think
you're right.
That's a different thing of like you're moving to this and you haven't done it because now you're not just getting out of your stance, right? You're snapping the ball accurately when you're supposed to, right? Setting protections and then also getting into your stance and being ready for whatever the defensive line's throwing at you. It's very different, and that's why I think it's obviously a more valuable position than guard. So, Monk doing all of this, it's like, okay, this might take a little bit of time. This isn't going to happen overnight. So, yeah, if you're asking tomorrow, it's Rhyan. If you ask who has the higher ceiling, it's Monk.
Drew says, I believe Zach Tom played some center in college as well. Yeah, I think he played over 1,500 snaps at center and at left tackle, and then like almost no snaps anywhere else. So,
I think that's right. Yeah.
So that was always.
I don't even remember if he had any snaps at right tackle.
And then on top of that, you got the goofy rumor. That the Packers front office believes that he could be a Hall of Fame center, but also they're not going to play him at center.
Well, because he's too valuable at another position. That's why. All-Pro tackle over Hall of Fame center, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, I think obviously, sore spot, right guard. This is interesting. And to me, I think the top two are pretty clear and obvious. Belton and then Rhyan. I think you and I are both in agreement on that. And what really where it gets interesting is number one, is there anybody else we want to throw into the mix? And I'm kind of a no on that. Unless maybe we think that John Williams could hack it over there. But
that would be an interesting conversation for sure.
But Dontayvion Jennings versus Jordan Morgan, I think needs to be had,
Yeah.
Higher ceiling at right guard, Jordan Morgan or Dontayvion Jennings?
Probably Morgan.
But it's only a probably. It's not a. It's.
It's Morgan. It's Morgan. Again, Morgan's movement skills set the floor. Technique sets the ceiling. He can reach. He can reach a stratosphere that I don't think Jennings can. And I really liked the Jennings UDFA signing when it happened. We just haven't seen anything. And I think I do think maybe if you're looking at left guard, it's a closer battle than at right guard. I think right guard leans more into Jordan's strengths. Yeah. Well, Drew D saying Morgan was a first rounder for a reason. He was. Do I think that reason was desperation? Yeah, kind of. A little bit, but as it is, again, it's the mid-20s. So that's going to happen. Again, once well, there were a couple guys, I think, but once JJ would probably agree, I would think. Once Verse was picked,
yeah, Verse was kind of.
It was kind of okay, that's.
I mean, there were a couple of DBs that went right before the Packers. So
Mitchell.
The Lions had the pick right before us, and they took
Terrion Arnold,
and I think he probably would have been the Packers pick, probably.
Which that looks like kind of it's year one. It's year one.
And Quinyon went one pick before that. I think they would have taken Quinyon.
I think
probably.
Wait, Green Bay picked 25th, right? I believe they're 25th. Yeah, they had to be the worst record divisional round loser.
It was Eagles,
right?
Lions, Packers, and there were two DBs in a row.
It was Eagles, Lions. The Jags weren't in between Eagles, Lions.
I didn't think so because the Eagles took Quinyon, and the Lions took. Who did the Jags take with
Thomas?
Whatever their pick was. Thomas? Wait, who Thomas?
Brian Thomas.
Ryan Thomas.
It was Eagles, Jags, Lions, Packers. Oh yeah, because
Brian Thomas would have been the pick.
Minnesota had 23 and they moved up. That's right. Yeah, because Jacksonville didn't have that initially. So yeah, because Verse goes, then Fautanu, then Chop, then Mitchell.
Well, and the Lions traded
a lot
up with Dallas. The Lions traded up with Dallas.
Yes.
And then Dallas took Tyler
Guyton.
Tyler Guyton.
Yeah.
Who, I'm not sure what direction the Packers go if Jordan Morgan is not there as well. They said that they liked their board at that point, which, the fact that they didn't try and move up, makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you only have one guy left on your board and it's Terrion Arnold, then you're not sitting pat and hoping he falls to you. You're sitting pat if there's multiple guys that you like. And I believe that they did like Jordan Morgan. When I was scouting Morgan, at no point did I ever think Morgan, is not going to excite the Packers. I certainly believed that Morgan was in contention for them for the first round. It's just that I didn't like Jordan Morgan, but that has nothing to do with anything. The Packers routinely take first round picks who I didn't like. That's fine.
Yeah.
Quay Walker, I certainly did not have anywhere close to a first round grade on. And I was surprised that they valued the position enough to take him in the first round. But there was no question when you're watching the guy, like other than his age, nothing else about him didn't say Packer. So, anyways, I'm not even sure why I'm ranting about this anymore.
Because it's fun. You can circle back to the draft anytime.
Chats here.
That's what's nice. You know?
Oh, Dalton Reisner still hasn't signed. That's interesting.
Let me see.
Drew D says in the chat. What are we talking about? Daryl Azian says Drew D says in the chat.
That's just how you say it usually when you go to the comments. Just because it's for the audio listeners. I think people are like, I get what he's saying, kind of.
Toolfist saving it. I think Godzilla will be good at right guard. The only question I have is, are Godzilla's arms too long for right guard?
No, because I think he's a complete brick house. I don't even think it matters how long the arms are, legitimately.
But what was his shuttle?
He's occupying space.
What was his shuttle? His shuttle sucked. His shuttle was horrendous.
Yeah, because when he the shuttle should be over when he
10th percentile in shuttle.
That's fine. He's in the 115th percentile in size because nobody else could touch that. So
better than himself.
Complete brick wall. You can run off the right guard anytime because there's just nobody's. He's gonna he gets to the third level faster than anybody on the offensive line. Shuttle and explosion drills, get thrown out the window because one step and he's at the safeties. Might be past him. So
at right guard, not right tackle. 2 hours.
He does. Yeah, that's a good question. Who turns better, Godzilla or Luke Musgrave? It's a tight race. That is a tight race. Chad, we got to get your thoughts.
I would even throw a third name in there.
Okay.
Too old for this.
Wow.
The streets are saying too old for this is agility is underrated. At right tackle,
okay,
where would you put Rasheed Walker and Jordan Morgan in ranked with Anthony Belton? How would you rank those three guys for right tackle?
Well, none have played it. If I'm
Drew says, I'm surprised you cut Glover. He cut himself. All right. He went and got a job at McDonald's mid-practice. Just because he wanted.
I remember
he
when
just
he
wanted to be able to
picked,
snack while he was working.
He was very
you
much.
Said whoa when he got picked.
It was very much a. Oh no! I remember watching him a couple days prior of games against. They played LSU. One of their
I said
games
something
in
else when he was picked. I said a 4-letter word.
In 2023, he played against LSU and a couple of their schools. And it was just like, oh yeah, the footwork's not there, the technique's not there. He's big, and that offers you a little bit. But man, this is he was on the Jordan Mailata level of project.
We've had big Caleb Jones,
right?
Big, but you could see the vision. Yosh Nijman, big, you could see the vision. Glover. He's not even John Ford level.
Pick.
Yeah,
I just can't believe they used the draft pick. That was kind of the surprising part about it.
Not even in the 7th round; they took him in the freaking 6th round.
Yeah, that was just kind of surprising. Where it was just okay, but
I think that they
who they passed on.
Oh, don't do it! You're just gonna make yourself mad, or you're gonna make me mad. Is what you're gonna do. Don't even look it up.
Oh, there is one. I know it.
Yeah, don't. Sure. Just don't.
No, I have to now. I have to make sure. I won't say it out loud. Unless
you have to because the chat wants to know now. The chat wants to know.
Well, all right.
I'm sure they do.
Let me just double check and make sure that was the case because I know this guy got picked in the 6th. I just don't remember where.
Although to be honest, the tip jar is at $0, so maybe. Oh, Tool for this says Glover and Pratt didn't work out too well. Here's the thing with Pratt. I would have given him a lot more time. I really don't understand why, Sean Clifford continues to get all these looks over and over and over again. And then Michael Michael Pratt, like basically like, hey, you throw one interception in a preseason game and you're out of here. Like he has to have been just a complete jerk that like sucked to
or just not have
in the room or something,
or just not be processing things very well.
It has
like
to be
from clipboard to field. Like I don't know.
I thought he was. I mean, he was. You know, I didn't like adore the quarterback class last year. He ranked. He was ahead of one quarterback who went in the first round. I'll just say that for me.
I know which quarterback for sure. There's no question who it was. He plays in the division.
Toolfist says, I always come here on Tuesdays. These guys acknowledge good players like Godzilla and Lad McConkey.
I got it. You want it? You want to
Go
know?
ahead. Go ahead. The chat has
again, he only
the chat has donated
$0
$0 tonight, so they don't deserve to be spared from hearing the name.
Again, PFF, not everything. He did have 2 games graded in the 90s, which is tough. But the Packers did take Travis Glover over Christian Mahogany, which is a very, very tough scene, especially for a guy who had
the most Packers name of all time.
The two games that he had ridiculously good, he had done good work in, and even he did good work actually at left guard against Chicago. But the divisional playoff game against Washington, right guard, dominant performance. That is tough. Could have solved the problem. You know who else could have solved the problem? Dominic Mooney. Ladies and gentlemen, we could riff on that for years.
Drew says, "Do you guys realize you
don't
kept
like
13
San Francisco
offensive linemen on the roster?" There's a lot of reasons I don't like San Francisco. Drew says, "Do you guys realize you kept 13 offensive linemen on the roster?" That is actually not correct. So
when we did the thing up here, we didn't do that. We had like
this was like for the summer.
This was camp stuff.
This is camp stuff. This was the 9 offensive linemen that we kept. 9. So we had 4 tackles, 3 guards, and then we ended up keeping 2 centers because we just didn't see how they move on from Jacob Monk already.
Yeah.
And then he has some guard versatility. So I think this would be the first time in a long time we've had 2 centers.
Yeah.
Chris says you don't throw away perfectly good mahogany. That sounds like an Office quote, actually.
It does.
But yeah, so as far as this, you know, the 13 names that are, you know, shuffled around and duplicated and stuff, this is just training camp stuff for the summer. So listen, Jake, you still haven't answered my question. Like rank these 3 guys: Jordan Morgan, Rasheed Walker, and Anthony Belton as like ceiling at tackle, ceiling / what you think they could be in 2025.
Man, I don't know. How many snaps have these cats played? Hold on. I'm doing a bit of research here. Okay, 0. That's sick. 29. 29. Nobody knows what that means. I
don't know what 29 is.
11. Okay, so Jordan Morgan, 0 snaps at right tackle. Anthony Belton, 11 snaps at right tackle. Rasheed Walker, 29 snaps at right tackle. That's all time.
And this is why they are unwilling to move Zach Tom off of right tackle,
because
even though
who knows who can play it? Yeah, exactly. Who knows who
even
can
though
play
there's at least 2 spots where he probably would be better than at right tackle.
I would lean.
Drew's vote is.
I would lean Belton. I think. Yeah,
Belton, Morgan, Walker.
I like Belton, Walker, Morgan. Well, I don't know. I think Morgan and Walker's a toss-up. Belton's first, I think, for me.
To me, that's like tough. Rasheed Walker is kind of just a pure left tackle, and I'm just not sure, especially in our scheme, I'm not sure he can play right tackle. So for that reason, although I really like him as a left tackle, I think he's solidly the 3rd option for me at right tackle of those three guys.
I gotta look at like if there are like major differences between what left and right tackle are being asked to do in this offense, because that's the only thing I don't know. But
I think this is probably how I rank
because
our right tackle options.
It obviously used to be a major difference of like left versus right tackle. But like now, obviously, you want guys to be dominant pass protectors on both sides.
Yeah.
And you obviously you could have some differences, but again, would love to know like how much that difference has narrowed over the years, and then again, what Green Bay does. But so that's what you'd have. You'd have Morgan, Belton, Walker. You'd say?
Yeah, I think so. And maybe I'm letting a little bit of like my desire for Belton to be the starter at right guard to bleed into that a little bit, I suppose, and also just like a desperation to find a home for Morgan. And I feel like right tackle is a better fit for Morgan than anything else is. Coach Len in the chat wants to know, could we put Belton at right tackle and move Zach Tom to left tackle? I would love that. That would be my top preference, would be either Belton or Morgan at right tackle and Zach Tom to left tackle.
That would be nice.
Which is certainly not a diss to Rasheed Walker.
No,
so,
not at all.
So I mean, there's a world I think where my preference is Zach Tom to center, Elgton Jenkins to left guard, Aaron Banks to right guard, so that Rasheed Walker can stay at left tackle, because I'm not sure Rasheed can play anywhere else besides left tackle.
And then Jake Slaughter at center in 2026.
Yeah, then you're having Zach Tom just not on the roster basically at that point.
Oh, I thought you said Tom at. Sorry,
I said Tom at center.
Oh, okay. I was talking like 2026. I think you could see what Coach Len has here of like Belton at right tackle, Tom at left. If Walker's indeed out, and you have Banks and Jenkins be your guys, and Morgan's the swing, and that's kind of how it sets up. So
Banks and Jenkins as your guards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but Banks on the right.
Yes, preferably. Preferably, yes.
You know what? I guess we need to put
Tom Jenkins.
We need to put Banks into the rotation here at right guard. We forgot to do that.
Tom's Jenkins, Slaughter, Banks, Belton would be pretty sick. Be a good time.
Zach Tom. Yeah, okay. So let's see here. So Tom, Banks,
be a good
Jenkins. Tom. Who did you say at right guard? You said Jenkins at left guard.
Yeah, I did. Tom, Jenkins, Slaughter, Banks, Belton.
We'll quit talking about Slaughter since he's
well.
Let's talk about guys in the NFL at least.
All right. Well, then I'm not really.
Oh, this is perfect. Look, we got 2 Zach Toms starting,
which is what
problem
we need.
Solved.
2 Zach Toms starting and 1 Zach Tom as the backup center, and we're good. Looks good to me. I don't see any problems with that. 2 Zach Toms.
Now
could have had the other one potentially in this draft, but we didn't go get him.
Coach Len wants Morgan to right guard.
Do we?
I don't know.
I don't
revisit
remember
again for the 8th time.
I don't remember if Coach Len was here when we talked about this last week or not. But like, does Morgan do enough for you in terms of getting vertical enough in the run game, being able to push people around the way that I think you're gonna get, at least in my opinion, from Banks, Jenkins, Belton, if those are the 3 interior starters this year? Do you feel like Morgan can do enough of that? Do you feel like he can be a big enough displacer out there? Because like obviously, again, inside zone, I don't think is going to be as much of a problem. It's more of the power stuff, right? Do we feel like, and again, there are certain blocks, there are certain trap blocks and stuff that I think he's going to be able to handle because he's quick enough to do so. But like, obviously, Green Bay's very multiple right now. They pretty much almost mirrored what Josh Jacobs did in terms of his ratio of zone and gap running in 23 with the Raiders that they did, and Green Bay pretty much mirrored that in 24 with how multiple they were with their run scheme. But can Morgan do enough of the gap stuff to cement his place at right guard would be my question to you, I think. Because I think zone, I don't have any problem. Like if Jordan Morgan were in San Francisco right now, I think we'd be talking about him a ton more because of like, okay, wide zone, he's going to be doing a lot of the stuff he can do with the movement skills. It's going to be like no problem for him. Can he do some of the gap stuff that Green Bay is continuing to shift towards is really the question.
Coach Lynn says zone, I think Morgan can.
I would agree.
Not so sure.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like we have him lower. At least that's my biggest reasoning. It's like we're almost there. I'm not sure, not sure we can do that. That's the tough question you have to ask, and that's a tough question to be asking for a former first round pick from a year ago. Where it's like, okay, we're trying to do everything we can to find a spot for you.
Now
it's just not ideal. But
I would like borderline be unwilling to trade him to San Francisco because it's San Francisco. But like, what would be another team that you would
Miami,
like for Morgan's sake, you'd like to see him go?
Miami would be a good one, I think.
Miami would be a decent one to like hold their second round pick too.
Houston would be good. They've done Slowick did a lot of outside zone stuff to help Mixon really become, their workhorse last year. That could make a lot of sense as well. So, and again, Morgan was Morgan. What was he?
He was light. He was light with
311,
shorter arms.
311.
Like not necessarily
not mega
for his height, like not necessarily a fit for tackle or guard, like a tweener type on the offensive line.
Which we have a few Packers because he was 6'5", 311. Jenkins is 6'4.5", 310. At least he was coming out of college, and then Zach Tom was like 304, right? And obviously Josh Myers was 6'5", 310, playing center. Yeah, 6'4 and a quarter, 304 was Tom coming out.
What's crazy is that we really, unless we both agree that like Jordan Morgan is our top pick for tackle 2 behind Zach Tom, ahead of Anthony Belton.
Yeah.
That's the only spot where he's even a number 2 for us at any position. And then his only one other spot where he's at least a number 3 for us. And we just have not been putting together any projected starters where Sean Rhyan or Jordan Morgan are a part of the picture other than backups.
Yeah.
Just
which again, yeah. Chris N. Tool for this. Oh, I love that. Trade Morgan for the Pope.
Trade him to Chicago for the Pope. I love it.
That's crazy.
Well, have we beat offensive line to death sufficiently?
I'm just making sure there weren't any other questions.
We had some really good ones.
I know Daryl's talking about like John Williams is well built and strong, which again, yeah, that's still another guy we kind of talked about briefly, like in that right guard conversation of like maybe that's possible, maybe that's what they're looking for. But
Tool for this says that does the expectation of versatility on the line that the coaching staff seems to have hurt the line instead of letting the depth learn one position. And I know there was a follow-up question. I can't remember if it was Tool for this or somebody else piggybacking off of that. But just talking about, does that versatility hurt more from like a contract perspective, say, of like, hey, you have to honor Elton's request for more money here because otherwise future guys may refuse to move around, which I kind of would think probably not. Maybe like Drew Rosenhaus might use that to his advantage, but I'm not sure who else. But the whole expectation and versatility thing, I don't know for sure. I would kind of lean toward, I think the fact that they like to shuffle it around so much leads to a bit of a weaker offensive line performance, because you don't have just 5 guys playing, anywhere close to a whole season next to each other. And so there are certainly times when you see breakdowns in the communication that I think probably could be attributed to that, especially more so, I would say, just from the fact that they are changing up so frequently that you just frequently have those games where there's a new lineup for that has not played together in that order. And so, maybe other teams are only getting that like once or twice a year where they have to like make a change and get used to it. And the Packers are like, hey, every like 2 or 3 weeks, you guys got to get used to something new. So I don't know that it like makes the players worse. It probably makes the players better, but you are just exposing you're exposing that weakness to your opponents so much more frequently than other teams are. And I think that is a negative.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one concern I love the versatility thing because it still allows you, right? You're not as necessarily rigid in terms of like, oh, we can't move anybody here to pick up the slack at all, right? Like it is nice to not have much rigidity when you're like trying to put the best 5 together. It's really nice having an ability when someone goes down to be able to put a best 5 out there that you feel comfortable in. I think the biggest concern is continued cohesion as a unit throughout the season. That to me, I think, is the biggest knock, right? Of all of this, right? It's hard to all be on the same page if you have 3 or 4 different, best 5 out there, in a short span. That certainly hurts it. But other than that, like if Jordan Morgan throughout his rookie contract is able to spot start at 2 spots, that's huge. That's huge. And like if Sean Rhyan had to do the same thing, right, of like, they felt like they needed to bring him back, right, this offseason, maybe he's, potential center, potential guard backup, like so I think there is plenty of value to that because, again, it when someone goes down on certain teams where they're not as flexible and they're extremely rigid, it's like, well, our backup sucks, but we got to throw him out there. That's all we got. Like there is certainly a benefit of having that with this team, but yes, the cohesion and the work as a unit, right, that you've built up with the certain 5, if you have to change it multiple times, yeah, that'll suffer a little bit for sure.
Tool for this says, I do not like seeing the line get shuffled mid-game because one guy goes down. Fill that one position and don't move everything around. I mean, sometimes you just have your hands tied, though. All right,
yeah.
if you if you only have, one center, and okay, you only have 2 centers, right? And
the other place,
one of them is starting somewhere else.
Yeah,
and we frequently are in a situation like that. All right, Josh Myers goes down. You have to move Elgton Jenkins because he's already a starter. You have to move him to center.
Yeah, you have to.
Or Zach Tom, but either way, they're both starting. So
it's a more important position, especially, right? Like if you're having to move somebody there, mid-game shuffle, like I would prefer the shuffling. Sorry to interrupt, JJ, but I would prefer the shuffling of like right. With Jenkins, like, hey, we need to shuffle him to this. This position's more important than the one he's playing right now. He's great at what he's playing at, but like this position is extremely important, and we know he can do it. Instead of like, hey, this rookie's coming in. We don't know. I don't know, Jim. Like type of thing, right? Like we don't want that.
There's multiple positions on our offensive line, left tackle and left guard, where we have a bunch of options. Yes. And so if you have to plug and play a guy at left tackle or left guard, okay, you can probably survive. Anything on the right side of the offensive line or at center, you're living in a world where you really have to have your best 5 out there, because the next man up at center or right guard or right tackle is often, not your 6th best offensive lineman or your 7th. It's often like your 11th or 12th. All right. It's a guy who like is almost surprising that he's available, that he's on the game day roster at all. You look at it and you're like, oh man, next guy up is Kadeem Telford. How comfortable do we feel about Kadeem Telford? Maybe we just move Elgton over there because, we can throw Jordan Morgan in at left guard or something like that, and we feel a lot better about that. So, your preference, I totally get it, and it's completely valid. But sometimes your hands are tied, and I think with how thin our depth is on the right side of the offensive line, largely because guys like Royce Newman and Sean Rhyan haven't really panned out.
Yeah.
It's not that they haven't taken swings. They've taken a lot of swings at the type of guys who can be successful with it. Jordan Morgan, Royce Newman, Sean Rhyan, Caleb Jones, Kadeem Telford. There's another big name I forget. Well, Billy Turner. They've had a bunch of guys that they've invested a lot of time and often some significant capital into, and then just more often than not, they don't pan out on that right side of the offensive line for the Packers with the same hit rate that they do on the left side. Again, I think Jake and I are both in agreement that if you get down to left tackle 3 or 4 or left guard 4 or 5, whatever, that is the first time that you start to feel any level of discomfort. Versus like at right guard, we're not even sure who we want as our starter, and at right tackle, once you get past the first guy, that's when you start getting stressed out. So and I did want to touch on Coach Len said, I like Sean Rhyan, by the way. I thought he stepped up his play big time. I agree that the peaks were certainly much higher every single year he's played. His peaks have improved. The problem is that those valleys just still exist. Like, he's so up and down, so inconsistent, and it's usually not within a game. It's like game to game. It's like it's almost so. Like on even weeks he's great, and on odd weeks he's horrible. That's almost as bad as it's been. Last year his valleys were not as frequent as they were the year before, so he has been trending in the right direction. Maybe this is the year that he puts it all together and he just locks down that spot. Maybe it could happen. It certainly could. Wouldn't surprise anybody at all. It just hasn't been, in my opinion, has not been as consistent. Makes sense. Not as bad as Myers.
Sean Rhyan is the unstable compound. Okay. He is. When the conditions are right.
Inside of him, there are 2 Syracuses.
Right. He is 100% the unstable compound, where it's like, if the conditions are okay, we don't have any problems, because he has a really good game. There are several games when you look at the PFF grades only where like the pass blocking is really, really good. And he had that in 23 as well, where it was like there are some just really good games where he's doing what he needs to do as a run blocker. He's taking care of business. He's not dominating, but he's taking care of business. And then he's just being a brick wall in pass protection. But there are games where it's all over the place. And maybe hydrogen's being introduced to your compound. And then oh no, we have a serious problem here or something like that. Like he
who knew Jake was a chemistry nerd? Who knew?
He very much is that. Well,
are you speaking about yourself in the third person? You said he very much is that, or are you still talking about Sean?
No. Well, I guess that could work for both things. I guess that could work both ways. But like that's who Sean Rhyan is at this point. And so like what I'd love to see everything come together. Absolutely. As somebody who really liked the Sean Rhyan pick, I would love to see that. I would love to be he would. It would be awesome for him to kind of, even after Kraft has kind of ended it, to be like, no, I'm stomping on the grave of the Packers can't draft in the 3rd round. It would be super awesome if he did that. But he has to be more consistent.
I mean, so, Tucker Kraft was already the silver bullet that put that down.
He was. He did.
He slayed that boogeyman. He is the curse breaker.
Yeah, he took the selfie. He's that meme of the selfie on the grave of the third round. Like he is that meme. Sean Rhyan would just be kind of dancing on it after the selfie was being taken, right? Like that. So I do agree with this of like he fits what they're trying to do, you know, in the direction they're going really well in terms of like, let's just push people around. Let's get vertical. Like I think he fits that nicely. And that's where like, if he can snatch the starting role, maybe we see it a little bit more. Maybe we see the run blocking, you know, take a big step forward. Like that could happen. And we've seen him be enough of a rock and pass pro to go, yeah, like other than like, well, unfortunately the playoff game, and I think Detroit and Indy, pass blocking was good all season long. Good to average to great, I should say, other than those 3 games. So if he becomes, you know, a really good fit for this and it kind of just takes off, JJ, we're sitting in a great position, offensive line-wise. A great position. Even with what we stand to potentially lose next offseason. If Ryan's coming back because he done so well, what are we doing here? Like, we could get that. So,
Chris made me
Daryl saying Sean Ryan's not afraid to get dirty either. I wanted to hit this really quick because Daryl said this really fast.
You did Daryl dirty. You pinned the one where he had the typo instead of the one where he actually said it what he meant to say.
Listen, it was closer. It was closer to the bottom. So, I want to put this on there as well. Like because this is true. Like if the offensive line is gelling, like when you need to pick up stunts, you know who has what assignment, if this guy's blitzing or not, and all that, and you have the chemistry for some of the combo blocks. You're working wide zone. You know, right guard's getting an extension early on the guy, you know, to his outside shoulder that you can get around for the reach block to seal the backside of the play. Right? You have the combo together, but you're passing it off really nicely to, yep, okay, my guy, you know, that I'm working with now has that block. I can work to the second level. Like all of that. When you have, a ton of reps as a unit, yes, 100%. It looks way better. And so it is nice having, that cohesion when you have a best 5 that are out there and, they've all had those reps. Yeah, it's nice.
We did have one important question that we didn't hit on. Tool for this said Pringles flavors have been crazy lately. Have you noticed? Like beer flavored, brat flavored, hot dog flavor. It's crazy. This does make me think that it's probably time for our weekly off-topic Google shopping search.
That's all right. I'm already making that move. Oh, okay. I see this. All right. Pringles have announced 3 new flavors for 2025. 7-layer dip, loaded potato skins, and the Pringles and Miller Lite beer can chicken. What on earth is that?
They have a Walmart exclusive. Which one is that?
That's probably almost for sure Mm-hmm.
And Miller Lite.
What the heck?
Grilled beer brat.
Okay, that one's probably better.
Beer can chicken sounds good.
Really? This just sounds weird. We know the one on the left. It's a safe bet on the left. Gosh, we might need to taste these now.
But what's wrong with chicken?
Nothing, but chicken and beer sounds weird.
Chicken and beer sounds weird?
Together, yeah.
Chat.
Like
go easy on him. Don't roast him.
You put brats in beer.
Yeah.
For a while. Like that's not strange. Walmart to pick them up.
So what was the third flavor? Oh, Miller Lite beer braised steak Pringles. That's a weird one.
Onion garlic
steak.
Onion garlic too. Okay.
I don't know if I'm down for.
I'm not sure I'm in. I'd rather do the chicken. I'd rather do the chicken. Now we're talking. Our UK friends need
beer
to get in on
battered
this
fish
thing.
is better.
Yeah.
I would do a
UK
beer battered
friends-
fish Pringles.
That's what we need. The UK folks need to get in on this too.
So we desperately need
This is
some sponsors for two reasons. One, we like money and we want money, but also because there are some brands we'd really like to be tied to. One of those being Redacted Energy. And by the way, let me cover up
and
a
other
bit.
and
I
other
don't wanna go there.
redacted energy that's like a little purple, but you can't see. It's like purplish.
Yeah, is that
But-
the one that that Brian Maffey told me I needed to get for this show?
No,
No,
it is not.
Reveal just like 10% of the logo so I can see, just like 10%.
10% of the logo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's way too much. Way too much of the logo.
The problem is you're a little postage stamp on my screen. Hold on, I can.
Hold on. I can
I don't
reveal
know
like
that logo.
half.
What the heck is that? I mean, I can guess what the word is, but I've never seen that before. They don't have that where I live. You know, you were talking about we gotta have these on the show. The problem is, you know, and this would be like our first true food challenge foray.
Oh, I saw his organic.
Since the
Oh.
olive oil shots, which
Oh,
was pretty good. You know, it
It's
was
good time.
what was it? Big olive oil or something?
Oh,
Big
yeah.
O line, something like that.
Big O line.
Anyways.
Big olive oil.
You know, but the whole
Big
problem
offense.
is you don't live local to me. You know, I'm turning 30 this summer, and I was talking to my wife about, you know, what are the plans for, you know, the big 3-0, and she's like, "Hey, you gonna invite Jake to your birthday party?" And I'm like, I mean, I'll, you know,
no.
it was Great Lakes separating us. I don't know that he's gonna come. But she said that you know, it's
That's
about
so
time that we
funny.
do a live in person show.
That would be good.
Tool for this is that the ayahuasca energy. You know it. You know the picture on there. The picture
That's
on that
crazy.
can was definitely ayahuasca.
It is not, but it's, you know,
Drew said, given that none of us know that brand, they could probably use some marketing. Yeah, man.
all
the more reason to
energy
sponsor
drinks
us.
probably could, but their bowls you probably know.
What types of bowls are you talking? There's
All right, here
different types of
you want the
bowls,
full
man.
logo? Do we want it? Do we want the full logo?
Just don't say it out loud and don't reveal it very long because they're not paying us.
Okay.
Oh, that's not what I thought it was at all. All right, cover it up. That's too much.
All right,
That's too much publicity.
Too much airtime. Too much airtime.
We'll have to find them and reach out and ask them to sponsor our show.
Okay. It's pretty good.
Turning 30 or 29, bro. I thought you were my age. You're so young, JJ. I thought you were younger than me. I thought you were like 25, but also you don't have any hair, so I don't know. But yeah, Tool for this. You're invited to my birthday party because I'm pretty sure Jake's not making the trek. You're 32.
Depends on when. Depends on when.
My birthday is July 10th. You got 2 months to figure out if you care more about my birthday
Is that a
than you
weekday?
did about the NFL draft being in Green Bay.
Is that a weekday?
It's a Thursday.
Oh,
Whoa, we got
that's
a
not
dono.
bad.
I'm
we
too old
actually?
for this. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm just trying to see what the note is. Hold on. The note. Phones. There's
You
no
know that
note.
day
It's
is
just,
Pick
it's just a
Blueberries
dono.
Day. National Pick
Is-
Blueberries Day. That's pretty sick, honestly.
His handle says
It's
not.
also
Ed
Don't
Sheeran.
Step on a Bee Day. Make sure you don't do that. That's crazy.
Here, I gotta put this on here. We're gonna say in honor of Don't Step on a Bee Day.
That's nuts.
Whoops. Wrong button.
Oh, okay. We did that.
Too old for this.
We
Don't
did that. We did that.
step on
did
a
that.
bee day. You know,
show
and people
this?
often abbreviate
Right.
birthday as B day, so it works.
That's true.
All right,
That's
there we
true.
go. Too old for this. Hall of Fame MVP
Sent a note.
for this episode.
What did he say?
He didn't say anything, so you got to
Said
put
there was
your
a note.
Oh, the note just said $6, so it was a $6 dono, and then the
Oh.
note said $6.
Oh, okay.
So I guess
Okay, sure.
I guess that's why I didn't register that it actually was.
That's
a
fair.
note.
That's fair.
But I thought he was asking us for a 2028 mock draft.
2028. I don't even think you can do that on any simulator on planet Earth right now.
Let's see.
One because
NFL
those
mock.
top pick juniors haven't played a snap. Okay. And the 4 years
Draftcountdown.com and Mockout.
they draft countdown has it.
All right.
Apparently, according to
Half those guys haven't played college football.
they're going to have some just highly.
Look back.
They're going to have Bryce Underwood listed as the number 1 overall pick.
Probably.
Here we go. Projected number 1 overall pick, Bryce Underwood. Projected number 2 overall pick, Tavian St. Clair. That's hilarious. And then Keelan Russell, number 3. Jalen Rashada, Jim Rashada, number 4. So 4 quarterbacks in a row projected, because
that would be the first
there's
time.
no other players that even know that you even know their names yet. For
The first edge rusher off the board hasn't played ball yet. Hasn't
that
played
is
ball.
1,000,000% true, and he probably plays for Penn State.
Probably.
Well,
Yeah.
no, he doesn't play for Penn State yet. He's going to
Yes,
transfer
he's
to
going
Penn
to.
State.
He's either going to
a year
this
from
fall, or he's going to play there this fall, or by 2026, he's going to be in.
What's another school that could be pumping out that
Edge rusher 1,
Georgia?
Georgia.
No, like they're.
I mean,
Trying to
they
think,
have.
like number one edge rusher.
Do you want the answer you don't like?
I mean, Trayvon Walker went to Georgia.
He did.
Aiden Hutchinson obviously went to the team up north, but like, who else besides Aiden Hutchinson?
Tibbs from Oregon was high in that one too.
Yeah,
Jermaine
Yeah.
Johnson was Florida State. Verse was Florida State. Florida State might be,
but
be an
Jermaine
interesting
Johnson
one.
was barely. Even though I loved him, he was barely a first rounder. He almost fell out of the first round.
He did almost, but if I remember the consensus,
He was like
board,
20.
Was he?
He went.
I know he went 26th,
Yeah.
but I feel like he was probably higher on the consensus board than that.
Drew says Penn State, team up north, Ohio State, Georgia are all common.
Yeah,
I mean, the last
Jermaine
highly
Johnson was
drafted-
11 on the.
It's
on
like
the
Chase
consensus
Young and
board.
nobody though is the problem as far as first round edge rushers. I mean, you had the Bosa brothers, but then I mean, in recent years it's been Chase Young and nobody. And Chase Young was
21,
the 2020 draft, so 5 years,
21, I guess. So
no first round edge
2021,
rushers.
You count Parsons probably.
Bama.
If you count Parsons, it was also Pay from Michigan, Phillips from Miami, Azeez Ojulari, Georgia. He didn't go in the first, but he was 23rd on consensus.
Wait, who from Michigan?
Quiddy Pay in 21.
Yeah. I forgot he went in the first round. I thought he was a second rounder.
The Colts took him in the first. I don't remember if it was before or after Phillips. I'm trying to remember. I think they were pretty close though, together.
Quiddy Pay, I've always
were
thought it was just super interesting. Born in Guinea and a refugee of the First Liberian Civil War, immigrated to the U.S. as a baby.
Did we get another dono?
Let's see, not on Venmo. Let me check Cash App. I did set up a Cash App
Oh, okay.
for Derailed this past
I don't
week.
know if Daryl was saying he sent the $1.50 or not.
I think he was just joking
Oh, okay.
that maybe he was going to because
I gotcha. I want a
yeah,
1986
there's nothing
mock.
in Cash App or Venmo other than too old for this.
Too old for this. You
$6.
actually want a 1986 mock draft. That's the real
off the top of my head, I
Went
can't
first, bro.
think who was even in that draft class.
Oh. Okay, so the Buffalo Bills.
That's not the
forfeited-
Mandrich year, is it?
No. Buffalo Bills forfeited their first round pick after selecting Bernie Kosar in the 85 supplemental draft. The first overall pick was Bo Jackson. Tony Casillas next. Jim Everett, QB from Purdue, with third. John Hand. My goodness.
So
I don't even recognize the all-pro names on this draft at all.
I'm going to be honest. There's some Hall of Fame names that I don't recognize from this.
Yeah,
which
same.
I feel horrible about saying.
I didn't. Oh man, when you look at what conference they're from, Big 8, I forgot about that. Syracuse was independent back then.
Oh, I was
my
misreading
gosh.
the color coding. There's only one Hall of Famer in that class. And that was
okay. Those were Pro
defensive
Bowlers.
end Charles Haley from JMU.
Where the heck did he go?
He was 49ers.
I know the team. 96th. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 96th.
I was like scrolling from like where the heck was he drafted in terms of the number? Okay.
Yeah, the pick started out as a Rams pick, then went to Cleveland, and then finally the Niners ended up with.
Mark Rippon went 146 to Washington. So Haley's probably coming off the board pretty quickly. Bo Jackson would still probably be selected pretty high.
The Packers, as far as I can see, they did not have a first-round pick that year. So there were only 27 first-round picks that year.
Yeah.
How many teams were in the league in that year? I guess just
28.
28, right?
So
Green Bay traded their first-round pick to the Chargers, who then traded it to the Vikings.
Huh.
So the Packers made their first selection in the second round. At pick 41, they took running back Kenneth Davis out of TCU. And then in the third round, they took quarterback Robbie Bosco, BYU. It's not a good draft for them. Linebacker Tim Harris. Well, there you go. Tim Harris, fourth round.
Chris was on that.
Hey, of course, Chris knows. And
John
then
Taylor for
later
the
in the
Niners
fourth
as well.
round, they
Damn,
took
the Niners did.
tackle Dan Knight out of San Diego State. A bunch of really small schools, at least by today's standard. You know, I'm not super well versed on how big some of these schools were in 1986, but by today's standards, most of these are pretty small. Now you do have in the fifth round, they took Matt. I don't know how you say this guy's name. Matt Court, defensive tackle out of USC. I have never heard of him. Looks like he ended up playing defensive end in the league.
Hold on. We need
What?
to come back here. I've never heard of this place. 23rd overall, the Rams selected Mike Shad, offensive tackle from Queens, which is in Canada. So they took him from the
other
Quebec
type of
University Football League. That's crazy. First round pick.
So this
also,
is like
two guys from SMU rounded out the first round. That's why SMU was good.
Well, here's the thing. You know, you didn't have the Canadian tariffs back in 1986, so you could afford to take the guy
it was more
in
of
the
a
first
free
round.
trade
You didn't have to.
agreement.
You didn't have to bring him in for a
It's true.
rookie mini camp
That's
tryout
wild.
in order to
That's
sign
wild.
him.
Well, and get this: the Rams doubled down on offensive line, taking Tom Newberry from Wisconsin La Crosse in the second round. Interesting 90s or interesting 86 draft from the LA Rams.
So this is where the Lions are getting their draft strategy from. Well, there. Too old for this. I hope. I hope that this was worth $6 to you.
Were we going to talk receiver tonight?
I think we have to.
Okay. Oh, we're on the draft right now. Should we just handle this one from Drew here while we're in the content intermission, essentially of like the real derailed section of this one.
Yeah.
Where Drew asks, what
comment.
positions do you think the Packers will target in the 2026?
Oh, I did see that.
NFL
Yeah.
draft? Let's do it now, I think.
You know what? For that, I'm going to pull up over the cap and just look real quick at free agents for next year. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be hugely informative because a lot of the free agents next year are getting re-signed. But
Yeah. Can I throw out
It's
who
still a
the
good place
first
to
round
start.
pick will be as a wrap up?
as
I
a
think we should
player or a position,
player.
okay.
We'll get insane. But let me go through the consensus board and find somebody that's off the beaten track a little bit.
Oh, I thought you already had the name. Okay.
I do not. But I'm working on it.
We got to hold on. Pause.
Okay.
Don't know.
for 2026
From
It's not.
Drew.
It's not.
$5. Thanks for answering my draft question. So there you go. We're happy.
So
to
we got to
answer
answer
your draft
now.
As far as free agents go for 2026, you're looking at Christian Watson, Sean Rhyan, Doubs, Zach Tom,
Walker,
Whelan, Enagbare.
Yeah.
Not really anybody else super worth factoring in here. So I would just kind of double down position wise and say defensive end. I think even if the guys who we have, who the front office really wants to hit this year in 2025, I think even if they all do hit, I think you're still in a situation where you're just light on numbers. And with Enagbare being a free agent, obviously you can and probably will re-sign him. I still think that they're just maybe down a guy there. So, they typically want to carry 5 on the active roster. And I would say right now today, they have 4 guys who I would reasonably expect to be on the active roster, including Kingsley and Enagbare. And then you got 2 kind of question marks in like Brenton Cox and Colin Oliver. And Colin Oliver, obviously, we had I think 3 weeks in a row now we've had big conversations about where we want him to play. And I just in 2026, I have a hard time seeing him still be in the defensive end room. So I think you're looking at, the 2026 draft, you're looking at Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, assuming that Van Ness hits this year, which I think you and I both expect he will. I certainly do. Yeah. Then you got Baron Sorrell, Kingsley and Enagbare, who is going to be a free agent, and then Colin Oliver and Brenton Cox. It just by far makes the most sense that either defensive end or cornerback is going to be the position where you're the lightest at numbers. So, if you have your thing you want to say, you can do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we do have a question.
So I got 3 names. Let's do one at each spot. Because again, tackle could be in play, but if they feel like Belton's the long-term tackle, right, then I think you have your 2. And Jordan Morgan potential swing, right, for 26. And you feel comfortable with that. If not, there are going to be a lot of options. If you want me to throw, I'll throw out a 4th. You want me to throw out the sleeper if they go first round tackle?
Yeah.
Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern.
Ooh.
Throw him out there. 108 on the consensus board now. I'm gonna near guarantee he finishes in the top 50. That's my guess. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern. So let's throw that out there. D-line, if we go interior, it's very simple. The Don, okay? He's been at Cincinnati a while, but I don't think he might be 23 maybe by draft time. Dante Corleone, man. They're going to go defensive tackle. That's who I'm thinking. 136 on the consensus board because he's long been forgotten about because we talked about him for like the last couple drafts. I think they're in on that.
I just have a hard time seeing Corleone not ending up in either with the Giants or with the Bears or maybe the Jets. Like it's just
Detroit. No, Philly.
No, I was talking about. I was just talking about the mafia.
Well, that's why I brought Detroit, and then I was like, okay, what team then?
You can't bring up the Lions without depressing me. So
I'm sorry.
Just keep that in the back of your. The other position, though, by the way, I hit on defensive end and corner, and I completely neglected defensive tackle, where again they still are just freaking light on numbers, like ridiculously light on numbers.
Yeah,
and I would be just absolutely stunned if they are still bringing back Kenny Clark for the 2026 season. I just can't fathom it happening.
I agree.
I think that the most likely outcome is that they are sitting there at some point in the regular season in 2025, kind of desperate to add another player to that defensive tackle room. Bringing in, kind of doing that churn in, the street free agents, maybe exploring trades, even though they never trade. I'm still I think it's going to be in play.
Yeah.
And maybe sooner if Kenny's not playing well in during the summer and, practicing well in training camp, etc., which I don't expect he will. I think the Packers think that he's going to be fine, and I don't think he will be fine. And I think that they are going to realize that at some point this season before it's too late and start trying to make some moves to bring in another body. Whether it's, a Jaron Reed level acquisition.
Yeah.
I think they'll at least make a Jaron Reed level acquisition. Hey, maybe Warren Brinson steps up and he's just the dude.
Potentially.
Dilemma solved, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So I did those two positions. You mentioned
Drew
edge.
said, I think the Packers like Wyatt more than fans. I love Wyatt. I don't think people who don't like Wyatt are stupid.
Well, Corleone could probably play nose in this scheme. Cincinnati's asked him to do a lot of different things in his career. So I will throw that out there.
Tool for this said Kenny and a 2026 first for Hendrickson. I will say I would not trade a 2026 first straight up for Hendrickson, but if I could throw Kenny in there as well, then maybe it's worth it to me to part with a 2026 first.
Maybe. Yeah.
Just let Tom play two ways and have him replace Kenny.
Zach Tom and Travis Hunter, the two goats of our time. Two-way players. At edge, I'm going to throw two Big Ten names out there. One of them is high in the consensus board because it just makes too much sense. Dennis Sutton from Penn State.
Deny Dennis Sutton.
Okay, that sounds
I don't know why I know Penn State so well, but I know Penn State really well.
Good.
I don't know why.
I'm glad you do know.
Like, I don't care about Penn State, but I know their roster.
Well, yeah, Dennis Sutton could make the leap. Now, without Carter there, you're gonna gotta be the guy. So we'll know. Anto Saka is the other at edge that I got to throw out from Northwestern. Two Northwestern guys. Watch Northwestern this year. Okay, they've got two, I think, studs. At corner, I thought about this one. I mean, Avian Terrell is what everybody thinks is going to happen right now. Or DJ McKinney, if you look at early mocks. McKinney's like 180. He needs to add in some more weight if that's going to be the case. I'm going to throw Ricardo Hallman's name out there. We're going to just keep pushing Big Ten and Northern teams. Shout out Cincinnati. Ricardo Hallman. Yeah, I know it was maybe a little bit. I think it was a little bit of a down year. I think he may have gotten hurt as well, but like his 23 season was really, really good. So if they go the corner route, like he peaked at 25 on the consensus board. Another player that might be out of sight, out of mind.
I'll give you a probable first round pick.
Okay.
Different position though. Safety. Coy Parrish.
Oh yeah.
Minnesota.
From Minnesota. Yep.
Coy Parrish.
Yeah, he's nice. Is he eligible?
I think he'll be for 2026. Yes.
Okay. Gosh, he's not even on the consensus board. What are we doing?
Maybe he's not eligible. I really thought he was. I thought he was heading into his junior year.
Yeah, no, he's a star. I thought you were gonna say Downs for a second. I was like, heck yes, please do.
Oh, Downs is not going to be anywhere near where. Lord willing, the Packers will not have any chance of reaching him. If they,
that's so funny.
Something would have to go horribly wrong for either Caleb Downs' health or the Packers' regular season record.
Yeah, that's why.
For them to have any shot of being near each other. Is Parrish not eligible?
Yeah. 2027 guy. But you should put his name down for 27, folks.
But Coy Parrish, all right.
You have fun with the
two-way player this year. He's gonna be a starter on offense and defense for Minnesota. He's gonna be a first round pick. He is probably going to be Big Ten defensive.
Did a lot of return stuff last year, by the way.
I mean, three-way player, really.
Yeah.
Three-way player.
Yeah. So that whole thing about Hunter, we may never see a player like Hunter again. That might have been a lie.
I think that Travis Hunter was like the best thing ever for a guy like Coy Parrish.
Yeah.
To now,
for sure.
now get opportunities.
Sure.
We keep talking about how we have to hit on wide receiver, and
let's do it.
The Brotherhood Sports, welcome to the chat. I don't recognize your name, so either you change your name or welcome the first time. Hot take: Wicks doesn't make the 53-man roster. That certainly is a hot take. It's not one that
sure.
It's a little spicy for me, but props to you for putting your name out there and staking your claim. So if it happens, certainly, brag about that foresight.
Celebrate the W if that happens.
I think that I think Wicks is going to bounce back. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. I really do. I think that his head was not in the right space last year, and I think where we sit here today, or at least a couple months ago, his head still was not in the right spot. But if he can get his head back in the right spot, I think he's going to have a fantastic year and could very easily lead the Packers in receptions, lead them in targets, lead them in yards. It's not a remote stretch at all. It's certainly within his talent abilities to make that happen. It's 100% just mental. Seems like his focus was not in the right spot a year ago. Seems like his awareness in a couple different ways, like situational awareness, but also, just like even just in the off season, some of the stuff about, he was like laughing about Josh Jacobs saying the Packers needed to add a wide receiver one, and like, dude, like reality check, people are looking squarely at you and Jayden Reed when they make comments like that.
No
that
question.
you guys are the most primed. All right, like we love Doubs. Doubs is a little bit limited physically in a way that you and Reed are not.
Yeah.
Watson, just from a skill set, limited a bit in the same way. You and Reed should be wide receivers 1 and 2, and mental errors and discipline are the reason that you haven't been. So, like, a little bit of self-awareness of, like, hey, Goody is talking about a sense of urgency, and then he goes out and drafts wide receivers in rounds 1 and 3. The sense of urgency is not about the front office. It's about you guys. That if you want to stick around, and I'd like you to both stick around because I think you're both supremely talented players. And, like, I don't know where you are, Jake, but just for my money, like my favorite receiver on our roster, the guy that I have the most excitement about his ceiling is Tay Wicks. All right. He's for me, if I'm ranking who I'm most excited about, Wicks number 1, and it's not close. But we've seen the floor way more often than we've seen the ceiling. And freaking incredible route runner. I gush about it almost every week, if not at least every other week on this pod. I gush about his route running. His release is fantastic. Like the Davante comparisons that people make are not just they are not because you guys both go by the name Tay.
No,
it's because the similarity in your game is like unmistakable.
Yep.
And we have talked endlessly about how it wasn't until year 3 for Davante that things came together. You're heading into year 3. Jake, you and I talked a lot last week.
Same for Watson. It was clicking. It was clicking last year, which we've talked about, right? We made the case that in had the
year
same
2,
year 2 drop. And
Watson and Doubs in year 2 start the season out decently hot, and then just absolutely ran out of gas at the second half of year 2, and they were pathetically awful. And it was the freshman Reed and Wicks, who were carrying the passing game. Year
for sure
3, Watson and Doubs came in fully established, and they had the gas to go the whole season. You weren't seeing the mental errors that had plagued years 2 for both of them, and obviously the end of year 1. All right, it was no shock at all that as rookies, Doubs in particular, I thought ended his rookie season on a very poor note compared to how he'd played for most of his rookie year. And then we made the observation that last year 2 for Reed and Wicks, started off the season looking good. Wicks a little bit less so. Wicks didn't really pick up where he left off at the end of his rookie season.
No.
And then, but by the middle of year 2, like there was nothing left to give for Reed or for Wicks. And that we are very optimistic and excited that we could see the same year 3 leap in NFL stamina, discipline, practicing, confidence, that these two are going to really break out in year 3, same way that Watson and Doubs did. And I think that Wicks and Reed both have higher ceilings than Watson and Doubs do. Doubs for athletic reasons, Watson just sorry, like there's some mental stuff, just processing and route tree and just a lot of subtleties in the route running that probably are always going to prevent Christian Watson from being an X receiver, even though we'd like him to be. So sky's the limit for Wicks and Reed.
Yeah.
And there was a period through like the first 4 weeks of Reed's second season where he was, arguably the best receiver in the NFL through those first 4 weeks. It really was not a stretch. There was nobody else who was just jumping off the page at you and saying, no, this guy's definitely playing better than Jayden Reed is. So, Brotherhood said, I think Wicks' ceiling is more Darius Slayton than Adams. Ceiling, I very much disagree with you about ceiling.
I don't even think that's the same type of player, to be honest.
And I don't mean to belittle your opinion either.
I don't think that's
and if you want to talk about floor, Wicks' floor and Adams' floor, very different.
Here, to me, this. If you want the ceiling that isn't Tay Wicks, I have one. Just making sure. I'm going through all the receivers in the league right now on their depth charts really fast. To me, the ceiling is one of 2 players. If it's not Tay, it's I lost it. Oh, Deontay Johnson, and it is who's the other? I just had it. Thielen, where because I think JJ put this laid this out perfectly. There's not a better route runner on the team. And that's coming from 2 guys who really like Golden and what he can do. He isn't the Wicks level of tempo, release, quicks, short area explosion, control. Like it's an efficiency. It's really all there. It's route depth and hands. Like those are the 2 things. Is he on time where he needs to be in the route depth, and can he catch the ball? That's obviously the most important thing, right? Other than getting open is catching it, and he's not doing it. But I think if you want to not go the Dontayvion or the Davante Adams ceiling, I think you look at those 2. You look at Deontay Johnson and what he was in Pittsburgh for a long time, and you look at Adam Thielen. Like those 2 are maybe, if you want to give them 80 to 90% ceilings, of Tay Wicks, I think that's what you're looking at more so.
I think those are both
he
fantastic.
certainly can get to Davante though. He certainly can get there. To me, I just don't. And again, nothing against Brotherhood Sports' comment. I just don't think Tay Wicks and Darius Slayton are the same type of player. Because like Darius Slayton to me is a field stretching Z, and like I don't think
Wicks possesses the gear to ever be that. Right? He's not going to be fast enough to do that. He has to make his hay where Keenan Allen, where a lot of these guys made their hay. Of like, hey, I can win in the short and intermediate at a high level, maybe a few times, a year. I can surprise you with a little bit of burst, right? Like those are the types we need to be talking about. I think with Tay Wicks is Davante Adams, Keenan Allen, Thielen, and Deontay. Like those are kind of those same realm of players, right? And again, not that Wicks doesn't have any semblance of burst. That's how he catches you off guard a little bit, right? Because he has a little bit of that he can tap into for, what do you say, 10, 15 yards, right? So that to me is like, when you're looking at like style of player, that's what I wouldn't worry about, like, what the number raw counting stuff is and all that. Like I want to know the type, like, because again, if you're building your receiver room like a basketball team, I need to know all of the skill sets in the room. I need to know who's going to be able to run, the intermediate routes and the short stuff and move the chains. I need to know who that is. I need to know the field stretcher who's going to run the deep crossers and all this stuff, how everything fits together. So that's why I want to compare player type and not production. Because production can come, and especially the raw counting production, can come from a variety of things. Like you can get production, you can get to 800 yards, by catching 40 passes sometimes. Some of the great ones can do that. Like, man, you can get to 800 yards being a bucket getter. You can get to 800 yards. Heck, you can get to 800 yards catching a ton of screens in the Washington offense. I'm pretty sure that's what Debo's going to be doing this year. If I had to put money on it, of like, okay, Debo's going to be a massive part of the RPO game and picking off 8 to 10 yards when he gets the ball immediately. So that's where I would push back on kind of the production thing, but I get what you're saying of like, okay, if you think the ceiling is lower and you put him, as a guy who's more of a secondary, tertiary player in terms of production, totally fair.
I have a couple of comments I want to catch up on from Tool for this. He said, I think Reed will be fine if they keep him away from punt and kick returns. I don't love putting these young guys who are struggling at receiver on returns. I don't see like the cross-training benefit. And it seems to have multiple times now coincided, and maybe it is just a correlation, not a causation, but it seems to have coincided with lack of confidence in these, young guys. Like I thought putting Amari Rodgers on returns was the worst possible thing. He sucked at it. And so he's constantly getting all this negative whatever it's called, not affirmation.
Oh,
what's the word? Confirmation, negative. Anyways, just reaffirming over and over again.
Wait, keep going. I'll think of the word.
That, hey, you suck. You go out in the field and your plays are negative for the team.
Oh, shoot. Oh, gosh. Reinforcement?
Yeah, thank you. Negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
Gosh,
that's sakes. That took me for a second. Dang.
I'm glad you came up with it because I
need a word of the
not
day.
going to come.
Put this on the notes. We need JJ and I both need to get a word of the day calendar for Christmas and birthdays. There we go. Okay.
You can get me one
mark
for
down.
my 30th birthday.
There you go.
Yeah. We'll put you in the guest house. Let's see. Randall Cobb being brought in to appease a Rodgers took wide receiver snaps from Amari, and that killed him.
That's the other. That's the other thing. You bring
that's not very debatable.
Like,
it's pretty apparent that was a huge killer. Like as soon as Randall Cobb got brought back on the roster, like that was it for Amari's playing time, because you were not allowed to take Randall and Davante off the field, and at that point, thanks, Coach. Yeah,
it works too.
Negative affirmation. I think that works as well. But you were not allowed to take Davante and Randall off the field, and then like Allen Lazard was earning playing time, and he was a very different body type and skill set from Amari. I think the other big problem was just that, like, Amari was always a terrible pick. I never liked the pick. Largely, I just never like Clemson offensive skill players.
JJ's going to hate this draft next year, man. There's so many Clemson players in it.
It's a bit of a new era in Clemson. All right. It's a bit of a new era in Clemson. All right. Some of the things that Dabo was doing back in the day that contributed to these horrific, NFL track records, I think are no longer in play. I think he's doing things a lot different. I think he's, has matured a lot as a coach.
God, the consensus big board is just full of them.
Saw that Amari Rodgers produced more in college than Golden. Should I be scared? There's no correlation.
There are 3
college
Clemson
production
guys in the top 10.
Nothing.
5 in the top 30.
They're mostly all defensive guys, though.
No, they're actually it's 3 and 2, I think. 7.
Who are the offensive guys?
7 in the top 85, by the way.
I don't keep up on
Antonio Williams, wide receiver,
Southern,
and then Cade Klubnik.
Oh, Cade Klubnik, come on. In the top 10?
After 2023, I would have agreed, but I think he actually played really well in 2024, unfortunately.
It is May the 13th in the year of our Lord 2025. And we're talking about Cade Klubnik in the what? We're also going to go relitigate DJ Uiagalelei again? Spencer Rattler? Come on.
Probably litigate Spencer Rattler.
Is it Gunnar Stockton time? What about what's his name? Carson Beck just got chased off.
JJ needs to. If Klubnik hits, I want him to call JJ out in the press. That's what I want.
It would not be the first time I've been called
I would
out
like to see that.
It would not be the first time.
I'm seeing it right now of the gosh, there's so many Clemson guys on this thing.
Okay,
14 of them that I can see so far.
This is not me crapping on Cade Klubnik. It's crapping on the mock drafters who are taking what they've seen of Cade Klubnik so far and saying, "Oh yeah, no, that's gonna be a top 10 pick." Guys turn it around their last year in college all the time.
But he already did do it.
Preemptively, he did already turn it around, but not the kind of turnaround we're looking for.
No, it is. I thought he was. I was a big hater after 23, and was very surprised at 24. Almost to where I have to go back on the preconceived.
You'd have him in your top 10 right now?
Top 10? What do you mean? Of a mock draft or a big board?
No, mock draft.
Yeah, probably. I don't think Arch is coming out. 2, I'm not Drew Aller. We're not doing that yet.
It's been a minute since I liked a college quarterback. I will say that.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think.
Everybody's on the Mendoza train, which I think is very fun. I'm excited to see that.
In the last few years, I was over the moon about Justin Herbert in 2020. 2021, I liked Trevor and Justin almost equally. I like both of them. 2022, I don't think I like. Was that the year I didn't like a single quarterback?
22.
Was 2022 was that the Kenny Pickett crap year?
That would be the year that nobody liked any of the QBs.
And then what? 23 was
Young, Stroud, Richardson, Levis, Hooker.
I liked Richardson a lot. I liked.
We still believe. Okay,
we're
not done.
I liked Stroud. I didn't love Stroud. My top 2 quarterbacks were Richardson and then Stroud, and then huge drop off to Bryce Young. 2024, I think the only quarterback I liked at all was Jayden.
Yeah,
because I really hated. Oh man,
I will say
so. That was the Drake May class. I did not like Drake May at all.
Everybody has showed flashes.
Like Caleb.
Except because JJ hasn't played. Everybody else has flashed.
Well,
and that's gotta haunt Vikings fans right now. Like,
well,
did we get the only guy? Did we get
it haunts me too, though, because because
We get the only
I
one?
said all along, if you're going to draft JJ, then you have to sit him, and he sat, and
Well,
it kills me.
He was forced to sit, unfortunately. He was forced to sit.
Because I said, like, if you play him year one, you're gonna ruin it.
Well,
And they couldn't ruin him because he got hurt.
Well, yeah, and also this was the landing spot we talked about. Of like, if he's going to land somewhere, this is where I would want him to go. Like we talked about, like that was the spot Minnesota was. So,
Brotherhood Sports said, I still believe in Levis. Jake, do you know of a bigger Will Levis hater on the planet than yours truly? And was I also not one of the earliest Will Levis haters that you ever heard of?
I don't know. It's a good question. My memory does not serve. But I mean, I'm
trying to think
Levis
what players
is great. Levis is great.
I never hated as much as Will Levis.
Levis might have gotten an award named after him that was previously assigned to Carson Wentz. It was always like, oh, now who's got the Carson Wentz WTF interception of the week?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Will Levis had a few of those where it's like, I don't know, man. Is it time to change the name of the award? But I mean, it would be really funny if he gets dealt somewhere like Pittsburgh, just to give him a try.
Pittsburgh's not that stupid. Tulip says Levis memes were better than his play, which reminds me of the greatest Deshaun Watson joke of all time last year, which was it was what's that show? Pardon My Take.
We're not monetized yet, so it's fine.
So they were talking about how awful his football play on the field was getting, and they were like, he's playing so badly.
Oh yeah,
that you pretty much have to say like he's an even better person than he is a player.
Yeah. I do remember that now. I wanted to get back to this real
Richardson
quick.
made Levis look like Marino. I mean, they both freaking sucked on the field is the thing. They're one awful player does not another awful player a great player make. Go ahead to your the one you wanted.
My thing was I just wanted to get back to this because I saw Brotherhood Sports brought up like produce more college than Golden. Here's what I want to say about this because I think it's a big point in this new era. Gotta remember, it took Amari Rodgers 4 years to get 1,000 yards. It took him 4 years to get 600 yards. Okay,
in freaking
the Clemson offense,
Clemson's artificial offense,
right? And he didn't move teams. Golden went from Houston, which again he didn't produce at Houston, but I think a lot of that were the drops. The drops at Houston were not good in 23. It was something that needed to be cleaned up. The transfer to new offense, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects production metrics going forward in future drafts. Because he goes to Texas, in last offseason, and by mid-season Georgia game was good. And like you felt like he started to ramp up once I think he got comfortable. And so like that shift now of, okay, guys are entering new schemes in the transfer portal. How quickly can they get it going? Or how late does it take them to kind of really hit the stride? I think is worth exploring. I think if Golden stayed another year at Texas, I think the production would have been off the charts. So I do think there is a little bit of an element to that now where you look at that and go, okay, he's moving to a new offense. And I get it. Like Cam Ward was cooking in Miami after moving over from Wazoo. Yeah, but he's also a fifth-year player. Golden was a true junior last year. So a little bit younger deal. Like Cam Ward's seen a lot already. Even though he was at Incarnate Word, he had 2 years at Wazoo. So like he had seen a lot. He was in year 5. At year 5, I would hope a QB is doing well. Right? I would hope so to get to where he was. So I do think like Golden's, yes, his raw counting production was not great. And I think because of that and because of all the routes he ran and because of a little bit of QB play, the yards per route run, not great. But as JJ and I were looking at, and we kind of, we're putting this on a lot of our
our stuff this year at receiver, his first downs per target, super good. Up there with guys who were first-round picks. He was near guys like, I think, Harrison, I want to say Wilson, and there were a couple others. He was right there with them in terms of first downs per target. So there was still, like, when they went to him, he was producing important plays, and the success rate was high on targets. So
I think you also like
tough,
anytime you watch
thing.
the Texas film, you're also just seeing the absolute force feeding of his teammate that impacted the stats as well.
For sure.
It took them a long time to realize what they had.
Don't forget the routes run will also count on those designed, spinner tight end leaks where he is not a primary read at all, or where they're running, Ewers is throwing swing passes. Those count, unfortunately, in terms of a routes run. And that was the other thing with Hunter as well. We're like, his yards per route run's good, but it's not great. It's like, well, you take all the screens away where he's on the other half of the field not doing anything because the ball's not going his way. He goes up to near 3 yards per route run. It's like, okay. So there is a lot of that I think, and again, there are some people who are very like anti the advanced stats and the analytics. I don't know why. I think it's great info to continue to use, especially if you're baking into production metrics. Like, why use the raw counting stuff if you can use other stuff? But I do think there's interesting ways we can filter some of that in terms of the routes run thing that I think could give us some interesting data to work with going forward.
Toolhouse has a fantastic question that I wish I could answer. And I suspect that the real answer is there's just not enough sample size.
Didn't play a lot with him. Right.
But he asks, was there a difference in Matthew Golden's play with Quinn Ewers versus Arch Manning?
I don't know. I know Arch came in in the Georgia game, I think. I don't know. I'd have to look back on that. I would have to look back on that. But what I will say is if you go back even further and you look at Worthy had 1,000 yards with Ewers, right? But if Worthy's best season in terms of the advanced metrics was his freshman year, where he wasn't playing with Ewers. So it does seem like Ewers is kind of hampering production from everybody. Worthy, Mitchell, Bond, Golden. Like, it seems like Ewers is the common denominator here of like all these problems. Well, Sark is also one. Can
I ask you a question?
Like, there is a lot of that
opinion.
Sure.
What if Quinn Ewers had stayed at Ohio State?
Be interesting conversation. I don't know, because like
I'm purely asking in the context of his development into a college quarterback and eventually NFL quarterback.
In that Bama game, did he hurt his throwing shoulder?
I don't know. I didn't watch.
Was that a throwing shoulder injury? Yeah, this is what
there were so many Northern games on that week. I didn't watch that game.
Drew just commented it after I asked it. Was that the injury?
Well, isn't that when he started missing time?
Yeah, it was early 23. It was the Bama game. Was that his throwing shoulder?
Because the Texas offensive line and their pass blocking, torn oblique.
Which, well, as a rotational thrower, maybe that there wasn't a little bit of an effect there. Don't know. But again, you never know what those injuries and how you're rehabbing and coming back, what changes. Especially if it's on the throwing, honestly, on either side. Like, how does it affect how you throw? Are you concerned about it when you come back? Like, he definitely, you felt like the velocity just dropped. because you watch that game before the injuries, and you go, man, he is zipping the ball. He is ripping out routes outside the hashes.
You even could see that in high school. He was
yes,
a mamma jamma in high school.
Of course, yes. So like, especially because and Tuolfus and Drew are kind of agreeing, like as a rotational thrower, especially, like, it's not great. It doesn't help. It does not help, and probably change the trajectory of things for him. So. Do we have a lot left of what we would like to talk about? We have gone 2.5 hours already.
Well, it depends on how antsy you already get going. This is one of the rare nights when I don't have to
right side oblique.
Be worried about getting out of here on time at all. So I can keep going. We've
done a lot tonight.
About 25 minutes left until Tyler Dershel is available to join the chat. Just throwing it out there. Hey, Tool for this even dropped it in the chat.
Oh, man.
You need to keep going for Tyler. Yeah.
I'm going to turn my camera off when JJ's talking so I can eat.
All you got to do is just mute it so we don't have to hear you munching
That's true.
Your lettuce.
That's true. It's good.
What do you have tonight? Is it another salad?
Yeah. Salad, soup, chicken. That's what we got.
This is my dinner. Water.
It's not a bad one either. That's usually what my breakfast is.
Can Golden be like a Jordan Addison? I'm the wrong person. Okay, remember how I said I'm not sure how many players I've disliked as much as Will Levis. Throw Jordan Addison in there as well. So I need to recuse myself from this question and let the draft robot handle it.
I don't mind that, actually. I don't mind that. I have liked the comp for Golden in the realm of somewhere in between your Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks sort of mesh that together type of thing. Yeah, I don't mind that. Obviously the size isn't the same, but that's not really necessarily the question. It's more of, the style of play. Yeah, I don't mind it. I think Addison has a little bit more twitch in the game, and again, Golden obviously had an injury. Yeah, that's not the worst thing. Because two things Addison got a lot better at this past year, and I'm putting that together right now, of like he was clearing contact better, and he was catching through contact a lot better in 24. Yeah, if they're going to allow him to stretch the field a little bit more, like again, JJ knows this. I would love to see Golden, Wicks, and Watson on the field at the same time. Just all three. Just give me all of that. Because it gives you
it's a nice package.
Some versatility where to me, at the very least, Wicks and Golden can split between X and slot, and then you have Watson to be the just true stretch Z. And it gives you a lot of possibilities. And again, with Watson blocking, and what he does as a blocker, you could almost add him as like, hey, we can add him as a threat to the formation where like he could even be in the slot, and Golden could do some Z work like Addison does. So I actually don't hate that. Enough speed, enough explosion and burst to get down the field, make some tough catches, which he does. I think he does a little bit better with body control than Addison, but the routes and the speed cuts, yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all.
What if you got those three guys and
don't forget
Kraft
about
and Musgrave? Kraft and Musgrave.
Who's playing running back? Or are we an empty?
What do you
empty?
Yeah, no, you're empty for sure.
Musgrave's the clear out guy every time. No offense. No offense. What route am I asking him to run? That's it. That's what we got.
Here's the thing, though. If you are defending that, who's the guy that you are devoting the least resources to
defend?
Covering. Yeah, it's Musgrave.
Yeah, it is for sure. This is a question.
So, touchdown, Musgrave. If he can stay on his feet.
Well, yeah. If he can, he's probably only got one guy to beat. It's a linebacker or a DB. He could probably outrun the linebacker unless it's like Jahad Campbell or somebody like that. Probably missing somebody else. Who am I missing? No.
Drew wants to talk about
unless Parsons is playing linebacker, I guess.
Yeah.
That's probably the only guy I'm like, well, I can't outrun him. There's probably somebody I'm missing. Trying to go through all the teams right now.
Colin Oliver.
Well, he's on our team, though.
Drew says, you know what I didn't understand from the
Greenlaw's
draft? Why did Pittsburgh wait until the 6th round to get a quarterback? That made no sense to me, and it might get Tomlin fired. So listen, if there is an AFC team that I know a lot about, it's the Steelers. First of all, Tomlin's not getting fired. That is not going to happen. No. Second, why did they wait until the 6th round to get a quarterback? There were zero.
They got the GOAT.
There were zero quarterbacks to draft. Like, you just wish that they would have drafted Will Howard sooner?
I have no problem with him passing on Dart. I think Sanders could have worked in the offense. So if you're like, oh, they could have passed on him, sure. I think Caleb Johnson was a better prospect than him. Yeah, well, I'd probably have taken him as 83 instead of Sanders. Yeah, probably. So that pushes.
Is your
Sanders
concern like who's going to start this year? Because what rookie is fixing that? Out of all the non-Cam Ward rookies, if you got to throw your money on one of the quarterbacks in this class to start this year, there's not a better option on paper than Will Howard. And that is not like a pro Will Howard campaign. It's a who the heck else is there? Jackson Dart is not ready to start.
Milroe, who I like more than probably Dart and Sanders, he's definitely not ready. He might be ready at some point, which is very exciting. But
you could design a gimmicky offense around Kyle McCord and win 7 games with that.
Of course, he went to Philly, where they could probably design a game plan for him to win. And he's got 2 alphas out there and Saquon.
But you run up against.
It's a pretty nice place to go. But yes, if they're asking you to make high leverage throws,
you go up against Steve Spagnuolo or somebody.
Yeah,
and Kyle McCord will never play another football game after that ever.
I don't even know if McDonald with the Ravens personnel where he was, before he took the job, I don't think that would go well either.
I mean, like any halfway competent
Minter in LA probably wouldn't let it slide. But
give me Jeff Hafley. Give me Jeff Hafley.
Yeah, they could have had Milroe, Drew. That's true. They could have. But again, if we're talking like they don't have any options, they have to have somebody start. I don't want Milroe starting.
Because if you're talking about after this year, sure, then I guess there's an interesting conversation. And then there's a Jackson Dart conversation. But a lot of people didn't like Jackson Dart.
Right.
So if the Steelers didn't like Jackson Dart, then who else was there to like?
Rogers Milroe
Dylan Gabriel
makes perfect sense. Rogers Milroe would be perfect. That makes sense. But if they're not sure he's coming, which who knows anymore, and you got to play somebody, I mean, as JJ said, who else you want to play?
For this year, no reason that Will Howard couldn't be the second best option, maybe even the first best option to just, start for a season in their rookie year. You're looking at a super senior with a lot of experience, played in a pro-style offense at Ohio State, already showed that he could make the transition really well, going from the beautiful state of Kansas to the even more beautiful state of Ohio. All right.
Yeah.
It's
Throwing deep balls to DK.
and it is not
Like, all right,
an offense that needs to put up a ton of points either, and it never does.
probably not. No.
Dershel is
that
here in the
five-man
chat.
front. That
Look at that.
Dershell's here. We can party.
Finally,
that 5-man
he made
front
it.
Pittsburgh has now. Watt, Highsmith, Hayward, Benton, Harmon. Have fun. You're not going to like it. When they have those 5 out there, you are not going to like it. Let me tell you. So, and they brought in Slay for a year, which is fine, and they have Porter, who he holds a lot, draws a lot of flags, but he'll disrupt the timing. And so, like, they can win 20-17 games this year still. I found a really good tweet about, I was searching schedule leaks earlier, JJ, because I was interested, and we haven't even talked about that, but we'll get to talk about the full thing next week. Someone tweeted schedule leak. The Steelers will be playing on AFC wildcard weekend on the road as an 8-point underdog. Perfect tweet. No,
Put money on that one.
Perfect
Put
tweet.
money
No
on
notes.
that one.
Yeah, super good. And then someone in the comments immediately said they're already down 3 TDs after reading this, which I think is also very good. So that's what they do, and they're, I guess, comfortable with that. Sure, cool. You better go get somebody like Sellers next year, though, if you want to be serious. So,
Tool for this says dumb
Aller,
question.
I guess, if he has a big year, which I don't know.
Yeah, I'm an Aller doubter too.
I am. I feel like I'd rather have Nico,
I'd rather pass.
but well, both QBs can sometimes pass.
No, I mean I'd rather
At least.
pass on those QBs.
I get you. Nuss?
No. I haven't zeroed in on guys I actually like yet. Tool for this says dumb question. What does a pro style offense in college mean?
I guess a
So,
lot of them now. It's very
here's
different now, I guess.
Here's what it doesn't mean. What Syracuse was running,
Oh, Mississippi. That's for sure.
What Will Levis did at Kentucky. Air raid.
I mean, that was Cohen for a season.
So here's what it doesn't mean. All right. It doesn't mean
Tennessee.
Cutting the field in half.
Tennessee.
Yeah,
Tennessee
is probably the
big one.
poster boy. So
that's the poster one, yeah.
We're gonna get guys
Watch
who
Tennessee
are
play offense.
just only fast. We're gonna out athlete you.
Yep.
We are not trying to confuse the defense. We are trying to out athlete the defense. We are also not asking our quarterback to diagnose and react to and try and manipulate the
One guy.
defense.
Tennessee is one guy. And really, it's pre-snap of what the defense is doing. If they're going to load the box, well, you know what we're doing. Everybody run. Someone will be open because we're fast. So literally Tennessee in the simplest terms. That's why Tennessee, everybody wants those Tennessee receivers. Like, look at these cool numbers. It's like, well, yeah, they run 2 routes. They run go and come back to ball. That's the routes. That's what they run. Okay? That's it. That's why we had to have Jalen Hyatt conversations years ago. Which
That's why he won the
didn't
freaking
need to have.
Blitnikoff. And then
Yes, he won the Blitnikoff because he caught 15 passes. He ran
how
by
many
everybody.
games has he played in the NFL?
I don't know. It's funny because I remember the Dallas Cowboys saying, like, yeah, we don't think you can run many routes. Narrator,
Well,
they were right.
That's because he's never run many routes.
Yeah.
They watched all his tape. and
Narrator,
he
they were
didn't run
right.
many routes.
So, you know.
Tool for this says, if Will Levis ran a pro style in college, he'd throw a lot of picks.
Oh.
Brotherhood said he did throw a lot of picks in college. That is, yeah. Will Levis was not asked to read or understand what the defense was doing.
Whoops.
Was not asked to
Didn't
move
mean that,
safeties with his eyes or linebackers or do any of that stuff. He was told by the offensive coordinator, here's the guy you're going to throw it to. Hopefully, you know when in the progression of the play to throw the ball, and hopefully you can be accurate. Spoiler alert, he usually didn't and usually wasn't. He had a big arm, and he could throw it 70 yards from his knees, and that's why he got drafted at all.
It's true. Yeah, pro style has obviously evolved. It used to be a lot of like under center only. Used to be a lot of what the pro style was. Now there are still air raid and RPO elements to an offense, but at the end of the day, you have to make 2 to 3 reads or full field reads on plenty of things. Like Washington was able to incorporate some RPO stuff and some air raid, you could maybe say, stuff, because Kingsbury had done it and Jayden had done it. But they were also asking him to make full field reads on plenty of plays. So like they gave him some training wheels a little bit, but that they could come off at any moment. Whereas like others need to be like kind of handhold training wheels for a lot more of it. I think that's kind of the difference. Like Cam Ward, I think, is a good example of like air raid RPO. He can do that for sure. But then you watch him at Miami a little bit more this past year of like, okay, no, he's changing stuff at the line. Like they're telling him like, if you see this, we're working through.
Those
like,
are huge.
What you see.
That's a whole other huge component. Right. In addition to what Drew's saying, checks the line of scrimmage, moving defenders. That's a huge part of it. The ability to move a defender. You're seeing Will Levis move a defender in his life? No.
Timing, reads, understanding the coverage, where to go when a certain coverage is deployed, all of that stuff. Seeing it pre-snap, but also seeing it post a little bit as well. Like you have to see all of that. And like I think Ward kind of had the flow and the understanding this past year, where you didn't see it as much at Wazoo, where again, he's trying to do a lot of things. He's running around schoolyard, a lot of that stuff, and it was like, no, he figured it out. Mac Jones is a good example. Mac Jones also played with a Heisman winner, who was one of the best, yards per route run versus man coverage players. So that's I've got Cam Ward. Speaking of Cam Ward, just because the schedule drops, it looks like it's going to be Titans Broncos week 1. That is not a defense I would want to play against, to be honest. As a rookie, week 1, I would have liked Indy or Jacksonville as my first taste of the league. That's fun. It's a good time.
Did Matt Eberflus go back to Indy? Who's their DC right now?
No, their DC is Anarumo, I guess, now.
Oh, yeah. He's dialed up some good defenses over the years.
Yes. But he had
never
Bates,
heard,
which was big. Bates kind of allowed him to do quite a few things.
He was an eraser.
Up front.
He was an eraser.
So we're like, oh yeah, I can run this because Bates is back there.
Yeah.
But like he did a good job flustering Mahomes. There's no question. Like he did kind of unlock that better than anybody. And Lamar at times as well. And I guess Allen the week before that Mahomes game in the snow. I guess that was the second game they lost, but
he's a very talented play caller, and I think he designs a good defense.
Yeah.
I've always had, taken issues with sort of the personality management, just like from a, I don't know, like I'm certainly not making, casting any aspersions on his character, but like his ability to lead, I guess, for me, leaves something to be desired. I just wonder if Indy maybe is a better fit for him than Cincinnati. It's a pretty stable roster.
Yeah.
You don't have the personalities in the same way, and I just wonder if there'll be less on his plate, and he can kind of play mad scientist a little bit more,
Yeah.
So we have new guy in the chat, Ben Thorne. If you guys believe all this media crap, then you're idiots. I'm not sure if he's talking to us or talking about us to the chat, but either way, welcome to the chat, Ben Thorne. Too old for this said, I believe everything I see on the media. It's more trustworthy than the weather and whether something is cake or not.
Always
Dershel says, always guess cake. I am undefeated at Is It Cake? My wife and I watch the show. I've never been wrong one time.
It's a good game. I like it.
It's my only talent.
A few
that
channels
and yelling into a microphone.
A few channels I watch on YouTube have done that. It's very entertaining every time. So yeah, there you go. I know we didn't really talk about Reed's thing because I think it was kind of like, I think we kind of brushed through it a little bit of like what was actually happening, and I think Bach painted that nicely. So if that's, you know, something you're looking at and going, oh no, what's going on with that Jayden Reed stuff? Like, I think Bakhtiari's, if you go to Bakhtiari's Twitter, he outlined it pretty well of the Jayden Reed thing of like, that's just an agent checking in and doing, kind of showing up for his guy. Pretty much. That's really all that is.
You read the tweet that Schefter put out about like what had happened, and you're, I think Brian Maffey said it perfectly. He's like, this reads like Rosenhaus wrote it and texted
for
it
Schefter.
to Schefter and said,
100%. 100%. Which Schefter does that for agents. I mean, we've kind of known that for a while. So just want to.
I've had enough Adam Schefter for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
he's a big Team Up North fanboy. So
that's true.
Probably contributes to it.
True.
The Brotherhood Sports asks, is taking sacks the new way for struggling quarterbacks to avoid incompletions and interceptions? Stat padding, basically. I feel like Justin Fields, Shedeur Sanders, and Caleb Williams take sacks as a strategy. I'm going to be a hard no on this because I think you can look squarely at Patrick Mahomes as the reason that guys like them are taking a lot of sacks, because they're trying to do what they've seen Mahomes do without his superpower ability to feel a defender and know the exact right time to scramble, the exact right time to throw it away. Throw it away. Throwing the ball away, having an incompletion, way less harmful than taking a sack. From an EPA, is it EPA or DVOA? I can't remember. But one of those two, taking a sack is actually more harmful than throwing an interception. I think that it has to do largely with just field position. You throw an interception, the ball is more likely to be further down the field and is less likely to result in the other team putting points up. So I think it would have to be EPA. Yeah. So EPA, it's actually more harmful to take a sack than it is to throw an interception, which is bonkers. But, it's just assessing what has happened in the NFL over the last, 5 years. So pretty crazy. So,
some of that really quick is I think there's a few different things with this. Because you watched, I think, two guys have great turnover avoidance in the last decade plus. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson were very good at making sure that they didn't turn the ball over. And, that was a big thing before we kind of talked about, the EPA that was affected by, turnovers aren't as bad because – and that's where kind of, people have brought that arm punt term up, where it's like, now you're taking a chance on the field and, in theory, EPA based on, of course, probability to score based on what yard line you are at, kind of gives credence to the fact that the interception, if you're trying to force it down the field, is not as bad for you in an EPA sense than taking a sack deep in your own territory, right? Or near mid, you're working to near midfield and you get backed up to inside your 40 or whatever. But I do think the Rodgers and Wilson of it all of guys are like that are trying to avoid turnovers because yes, they can certainly be backbreaking in many cases. I do think Williams likes to live off script, and I think that's where you're coming from, where it's he wants to be like Mahomes for sure. He does. He wants to be Mahomes. And
Shedeur is
living.
He loves living outside of the play. Like he
He's
loves
very
living in the
comfortable there.
second reaction stuff because he has great feel to it. I think he just tries to get to it too early. He's just trying to get to it too early, or he just wants to get to it in the face of pressure where there were a lot of unblocked pressures and sacks for sure, but there's a lot of those where you have to get rid of the ball. You have to know where the hot is on a lot of
It
those.
also doesn't
Caleb
work as
didn't
well
know.
in the NFL.
Correct.
When you're going up against
Correct.
NFL defenders,
You have to have
every single guy
feel. You have to have elite feel to do that, which Mahomes
every single
has, and you don't yet. Yeah.
And Mahomes, it's a superpower for Mahomes. He's, has been the best scrambler every single year. I remember the 1 year is 2021. I want to say the two best scramblers were Mahomes and Brady. And you're reading that and you're like, it can't be. There's no way that Brady is the second best scrambler in the league, only behind Mahomes. But you look at both of them, you watch them play. It entirely came down to when they decide to scramble.
Yep.
And you get, idiots like Justin Fields who just scramble when there's not a guy open. Mahomes doesn't do that.
Right.
Mahomes scrambles when
it's all done. There's nothing there. First read no, second read no, third read no. Okay.
And when there's an opening to run. If there's not an opening to run,
right.
He just throws it away.
And that's the other thing with the QBs and the processing that is necessary for the position. The great QBs, when they scramble, and Burrow did this all the time in college, of like, pressure's coming that way. I know that gap's going to be open. I will take that immediately if I see it. And that's what some of the great scramblers do as well. Like they know where the pressure is coming from, they recognize it, and they know where the outlet is going to be to escape if they need to. Like they already know what gap is going to be there. And to the Fields and Sanders thing, for both of them, it's more of a processing issue. I don't think Caleb is a bad processor. I think Caleb just wants to live in that world more because he likes living in that world more. And then it be more of a processing issue. Not to say that it isn't one at all, but I just think he loves living in that world. Sanders and Fields have a processing issue. Both of them do. And while, yes, sacks don't always directly fall on the QB, they actually kind of do a little bit more of like the unblocked pressures and sacks. Yes, maybe that's an O-line communication issue for sure. But if you're holding on to it too long, you can't assume that linemen are going to be able to block for 5 seconds. We can't live in that world, right? Unless you think they can hold on every play. Whereas, and I really quick, JJ, and because those guys are bad processors, the one guy that I think you could look at the sacks and go, I contextualize and understand all of these, is Burrow. Because what Burrow is taking sacks, he is doing so not to the detriment on first and second down. He is doing it when he knows that the third down, I need the first and I'm not going to be able to scramble for it. I'm going to wait until somebody gets open. I'm going to keep looking at this field because I know if I don't throw this, well, then it's dead. We're done, right? Like there's no like, I'm not putting myself behind the 8 ball on second down. He doesn't do that. His sacks on third down are, yes, he's trying to hold on to it too long because he knows we're punting if I'm not making this play. And Burrow's the one where you have to go through it all. Thing. Yeah.
It's a processing thing. Mahomes, Burrow, I would throw Stroud in there as well. Okay, these guys, their brain is a computer.
Herbert.
Fields' brain during a play is a rock. All right?
Yeah.
He can't process anything. He can kind of just instinctually react to something, there's a guy coming at me, I'll run away from him if I happen to see him. But the other three guys that I mentioned, they process everything so quickly. So they're not just instinctually making moves just based on whatever.
Yeah.
It's a thought through decision. They can think that quickly. I don't know if Caleb Williams can think that quickly. I know Shedeur certainly can't. I know Justin Fields certainly can't.
No.
And that's why, Shedeur, I was not very interested in drafting Shedeur because although he makes magic happen, in the Pac-12 schedule that he was playing,
Now
What's
Big
that?
12. Pac-12 down.
Big 12.
Pac-12 formerly, then Big 12. Yeah.
The Big 12 schedule he's playing. But he can't process quickly, and that's
Was
that's
never
what I
an
like about
anticipatory
a
thrower.
guy like Stroud, like Burrow.
Yeah.
Their brain is a computer.
Yeah.
Shador
and never threw with anticipation. Shador did not do that. He never did that. He was waiting until guys were staring at him. He was waiting until the break was long gone. So he definitely
Will
had
Levis
that
too.
issue.
Yeah, Will Levis 100%.
Yeah.
And again, Will Levis has never thrown with anticipation
No,
in
he's
his
a see
entire
it throw
life.
it too. Yeah, definitely. And Fields didn't have to be a processor because he was never pressured. Ohio State didn't allow him to face a lot of pressure. And if he did face pressure, the collegiate athletes he was facing didn't have his 4.4 speed. So he always had an outlet of like, hey, I'm faster than everybody. I can get out of this situation. And that's like Russell Wilson definitely lived on that a lot more. Certainly when he started, because he was just that good of an athlete where he could get out of situations like that. Kyler kind of masks his processing issues because he's that explosive and fast.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't take sacks because of that. Like they just can't catch him. But like some of the guys where they aren't as fast, like the Shadors and the Levises, like you can tell that like their clock isn't being sped up fast enough right now, making this jump. So it'll be interesting to see if Shador can make that jump at all. And hit, obviously the patting the ball thing, whatever. That's not really that discussion. It's more with Shador. It's like the taking sacks is, yes, his line wasn't good, but also I feel like he was a little more passive in the short intermediate of like trying to work the ball into tighter windows. He really wanted to, again, be the see it, throw it, no anticipatory stuff guy. And when you are like that and the windows are tighter, you get hesitant. And you can't really hesitate too much now.
Turns into sacks.
Yeah,
And-
you can't hesitate anymore. We're past that now. Hesitation, it means play over at this point.
To
So-
the Brotherhood's point, sacks seem to be the only QB stat that doesn't directly fall on the QB. There's two things. One, when it comes to perception, you're right. The QB does not take the blame from the public or from organizations for
There is
sacks.
a small group, though, that's growing in this ideology, I will say, that they are on the QB more.
Oh, it's
That I see
sacks
on Twitter.
are.
Yeah, which is where we need to be.
I consider myself just
the
purely
media
an
has lied to you.
analytical- I am purely a fanalist. All right. Sacks, everything I've ever looked into, sacks are 100% a quarterback stat. Pressures, that's an offensive line stat.
Yes.
All right. So this is why my favorite quarterback stat is always pressure to sack ratio. I always want to know what that is. The pressure to sack ratio tells me so much about what you are doing with the situation you are given. So you look at, for the 3 years that he was, in the league and everything with Chicago, Justin Fields was always the worst at pressure to sack ratio. Were there a lot of pressures? Yes, a lot of pressures, but the pressure to sack ratio was absurd. It was over 40% almost all the time. You look at Jordan Love. His
Him and
first
Josh
year,
Allen, I think, right?
and I think
At least
second
last
year, right around like 7.1%, and Josh Allen was at like 8.1% pressure to sack ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that all day. All right.
Yep.
I can go yell and scream at the offensive line to make sure that you're getting pressured less and yell at the freaking wide receivers to get open faster because you are giving me a sub 9% pressure to sack ratio. That tells me you're not causing the problems. All right. If you are at like 10% or below, I'm not going to ask you to do better than that as a quarterback. There are going to be some situations, and you talked about with Joe Burrow, there are some situations where you are going to choose to take some sacks in situations where that is what I want you to do. All right. It's third and got to have it. I don't really want you to throw the freaking ball away unless it means like not taking I remember Mahomes was playing the Dolphins in 2020, just a few weeks before the Super Bowl, and he got sacked for like 39 or 49 yards or something like that. Humongous, crazy loss of yardage. Okay, like don't lose 10 plus yards on a sack on third and gotta have it, because that's gonna impact our punting position. It's gonna impact what we're doing on fourth down. Mm-hmm. But third and gotta have it, or fourth down, especially fourth down. Don't freaking throw the ball away on fourth down. And if you have to decide between like a much less than 50-50 ball and forcing it in there versus taking a sack, take the sack and hold on to the ball. All right. So there's going to be some sacks that I do want you to take. So, but sub 10% pressure to sack ratio, I'll take that all day long, and I will go scream at the offensive line. I will go scream at the wide receivers. That was never the issue in Chicago. Like, the fans love to yell and scream about how the offensive line wasn't doing a good enough job. And like, yeah, they certainly would have games where the pressures were absurdly high. But you know what really wasn't very high was their pressures within 3.8 to 4 seconds.
Yeah.
A lot of those pressures were coming at like the 5.5 to 6 second mark. And again, this is where it's hard.
Pressures.
Those are QB generated pressures. And so, those are the times when threshold. Like you have to sit down and grind some tape and log what you're watching. Yeah. And just the stat sheet is not going to tell you enough. And you have to be able to look at, okay, we're crediting, the right tackle with a pressure, but it was at 4.5 seconds. And the quarterback, ran outside of the pocket. Like, I'm sorry. So.
And that's the pressure to sack ratio. And that's why you can't hyper fixate on it, because Jayden Daniels was over 20% in the pressure to sack ratio. And that was a big turnoff. Big turnoff for him.
In college or last year?
In college. His final year, especially at LSU, was like 20% or something. It was like people fixated on that of like, oh no, this is a serious problem. But then you go watch, right? And you go watch some of the pressures, and it's like he's kind of doing the Burrow thing a little bit more as well, of like he's in a high leverage situation. He's moving around. He's trying to get something out of it, and it just eventually does not get anything that he would like to take a chance on. And so that's where, like, especially like we've gone on a massive tangent, but it's, I think, a good one.
Well, this is where I like having a 24-year-old rookie quarterback.
Yeah, that's the other. Yeah, and the other two guys who were low from the class, 7% and 6%, Penix and Nix. 24-year-old players who have been through it and know what they need to be doing. And so that's why, again, a lot of these just I think if you're making boards, if you're doing that, put these data points in. They're nice to have.
Look for winning quarterbacks at big time programs who are old enough to be hosts on this podcast.
Which,
Cam Rising.
Well, yeah. But yeah, that's and so like again, the metrics aren't going to be perfect either. So use your eyes, see what you could see, to figure out what those pressure to sack things are. Are they being inviting because they're just kind of, again, not processing fast enough, or trying to do too much? Are they trying to be a hero too much? Are they are those pressures to sacks coming on early downs where you just absolutely cannot have that, putting yourself, in a hole that you can't climb out of very quickly? Or are they coming on high leverage stuff where the sack maybe, again, to your coach, maybe not to the numbers, as we've kind of talked about with the interception versus sack thing, but maybe to your coaches who say, listen, we just don't want to have a turnover here, but, if you want to buy time and try to make something happen, great. Just don't force something that, will put us, behind the eight ball and turnover or otherwise. So you have to put it all together. You got to put it all together. And like very clearly, Jayden did not have a processing issue. Jayden had I'm running around like I have a star in Mario Kart issue. which he didn't have, and he still kind of does that. That's where the RG3 stuff worried me going to the same team. But like, everybody has something that is not good. Numbers wise, metric wise, film wise. Is it going to doom them? That's what all these scouts and GMs go through for a lot of the year.
The predictive stats that I like the best when it comes to scouting college quarterbacks for the NFL: pressure to sack ratio, turnover worthy plays, completion percentage, and yards per attempt. Like those four, very predictive, stable metrics. You find a guy who's good in all four of those. First of all, you won't find one more than every few years. You know, like every 3 years, you'll find a guy who's good in all four of those.
Yeah, they
tend to pan out. The other kind of this is I'm literally just throwing this out here because I think it's interesting. CJ Stroud is an anomaly in the last since like 2014 or 2015. He's the only quarterback who came in and was, pretty successful pretty quickly, who did not have a really good PFF rushing grade. He was at like 59, which is just a tick below dead average. Dead average is 60.0. He was at 59 or 58, something like that. I think it was 59. And, but all the others who were any kind of decent success, any kind of early on at all, they're in like the 70s or higher for PFF rushing, which to me, again, I don't think it's a fluke. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with Mahomes and Brady. Why did they always have, the highest PFF rushing grade, the highest, rushing EPA per play, that kind of thing? It's about when you run and why you run. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it's a coincidence, and look, it's not a 1-to-1. It doesn't mean the guys who have great rushing grades are automatically going to be good in the NFL. It was just interesting to me that Stroud was kind of the only outlier of guy who found success pretty quickly, who didn't also happen to have a high rushing grade. Yeah. Adam Huddle said but that Georgia game was fire. I think you're referring to CJ Stroud's Georgia game.
Yes.
And he certainly that was the one where he did run. There's a lot of angst for 2 years prior to that about why won't they let him run? Do they need to have more of a rushing quarterback run game in order to win? I think the answer was partly yes. But even in that game, I although he was impactful with his feet, I wouldn't say like the decision making of when to run was exemplary. It just was effective.
Yeah, it's true.
Listen, we're at 3.25 hours. Yeah. I don't know if this is a record. I think this might be like our second or third longest that we've done, but it's up there. I'm proud of it. This was a good stream.
I think so. Yeah. I think it was very good. Very productive. A lot of different topics. The QB one might be a good one to put into like a mini little video type of thing.
Tell you what, you get that one. You handle the clip for that one. I'll go back to last week and do the wide receiver one we were supposed to do.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. We'll report back in a week and see if we actually did our videos. I'm going to do mine. I swear on this empty can of redacted that
push my Venmo.
And if I don't, then week. May that empty can of redacted burn as punishment. Venmo question, Dershel. Wait, did I did. Holy crap, 21 minutes ago. You know what? It's because here's why I missed it. It is so late at night over here that my phone went into
do
not disturb mode, so I didn't get the notification. Let me see here. Let me see it. So $10 dono from Dershel. Thank you, Dershel.
Thank you.
Which player does the offense need to build itself around? I mean, are we excluding Jordan Love from this? Because obviously the answer
Presumably.
is Jordan Love. So we're going
Presumably.
to exclude him because it's not a very interesting debate if we do that.
Yeah.
So he said, push my question to next week.
Sounds like a perfect opener.
I think so because first of all, before we make that decision, Dershel, are you going to be available for the opener next week? Because I don't want to lead with this if you're not even here to hear it.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it's a good question that is deserving of a long answer.
Yeah.
And we like long answers, but maybe not at 3 hours and 14 minutes, 15 minutes.
It's true.
The Brotherhood Sports says this channel is underrated. Keep cooking. Thank you, my brother. And by the way, we subbed to you like an hour ago. We subbed to you.
We will keep cooking.
Thank you so much.
I'll sub to you from my main as well.
Say what?
Fine. I'll sub to him from my main one as well.
And sorry was all about the drama. It was all about all the drama with the wide receivers. And we didn't drama on the wide receivers that much, but I do think it was still kind of a productive discussion to go back to about how the guys fit together and that whole year three thing for Wicks and Reed. I still feel like there's some more Matthew Golden, Savion Williams conversations that we need to have. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. I think there's more that, and you know what? To be honest, it'll dovetail too with our answer to Tyler's question. Which player does the offense need to build itself around? I mean, there's obviously a few early front runners that make a lot of sense. Of Josh Jacobs, a receiver, whether that's Golden, whether that's Wicks. I would say in 2025, not sure that any of us think it's Savion Williams, but down the road, if he actually is achieving any type of potential, certainly makes some sense. I would say Wicks, Reed, Golden, and Jacobs. Like, I'd love to throw Tucker Kraft in there, but we're not the Chiefs. We have wide receivers. But I would say though that's where the conversation is going to start next week, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Definitely.
And hopefully, some one of our other running backs pops. And
I saw that question a while ago too. That I
talking about Lloyd.
Yes, Drew. We're getting to that next week too.
Drew.
Yes. I saw this one.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was.
It was like
45 minutes ago. I don't think Drew's even. It
was like
anymore.
Just as we started to switch into the QB stuff with the pro style offense, so that's why. We'll get to that.
And then I also want to pin this for next week. I don't think Steno knows what to do with Savion. I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. The bigger question is going to be, does what Steno knows matter? So maybe we'll pin that one for next week too. So I say as long as Dershel is there at the start of the episode, maybe that's our opener, and we'll see how long we go on that. Yeah. And if he's not there, we'll have to hold it because
we can hold it.
You guys have squandered over 3 freaking hours with us. A couple of knuckleheads. I don't know what the heck you do. So much wasted time. So much potential.
What are you doing?
So many other things you could be doing besides listen to us idiots talk about football. But hey,
that's for sure.
I know we like you. And in the words of the late, great, venerable Ed Policy, thanks for listening. Go Pack Go.